Hello and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's new episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends. And indeed, I have a bunch of friends with us, one of which is running behind, and that's because he's tending to the kids. And that is of course, Asante. He'll be joining us in a hot second. But we have someone that made his debut last week, folks, and great news. Great news. Not only is his own podcast doing great numbers and inviting in the folks, but he's going to be joining us twice a month, once every other week. And that, of course, is the Black Viking. What's going on, brother? Welcome and
What's up, man?
congratulations, brother. It's great to have you a part of the show. How you
Yeah,
doing,
man.
man?
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me on again. I am extremely excited to be a part of Double Barrel Gaming twice a month. We're gonna have a good time, man. Hey, everybody in the chat, hit that like button. We close to 14,000 subscribers here. Yeah.
We indeed are. In fact, I will do a live count for you right now. We are as close as we've ever gotten. We are sitting at currently. Let me see the numbers, folks. Why is my computer running so slow? My God, this is awful. This is no, it's not my computer. It's actually YouTube that's just being terrible. All right, we'll get to it in a hot second.
Yeah, man. Y'all hit that sub button though.
Yeah, hit the sub button for sure. Definitely would appreciate that. But listen, folks, there is like normally I was telling Viking in the green room. Normally this time of year we're scrounging. Well, most podcasters are scrounging for stuff to talk about, right? Usually, we retreat to game of the year talk and start talking about what happened over the course of 2023, the highs, the lows, the mediums, what's our favorite games. But we're not talking about that today. We actually got a lot to get into. The Sony leak continues to be the source of conversation. Turns out that Jim Ryan has sold all of his stock in SIE. That came out yesterday. I believe the sale of his stonks, as the kids like to call them, was on the 15th of December. Obviously, he has no faith in where the company is going because, well, he sold all his shares. We also had the kind of funny controversy happen yesterday. Greg Miller, pillar of the community for a lot of people. I've been a supporter of Kind of Funny for they're celebrating their 9 years. I've been supporting them for 9 years. I like Greg. I like Blessing. I like a lot of the dudes over there. They're a lot of fun. But he kind of stepped on it yesterday, I kind of think, because he, came out as he does on his show, his weekly show and his daily show, of course, and talked about how they were not going to cover specifically the leaks for what happened with Insomniac Games. And he got a lot of backlash from that because just recently he was laughing, poking fun at the Grand Theft Auto 6 leaks. And there were several people that called him out for it, specifically Lord Addict from the Iron Lords podcast, said, basically he's, the Kind of Funny is acting kind of crazy because he put four pictures of everything that they've covered regarding leaks, the Capcom leaks, the Grand Theft Auto leaks, the Far Cry 7 leaks. I mean, they've covered them in full. And we know Greg has some friends over at Insomniac Games. He's actually in the game. He is the shirtless dude with the Spider-Man mask. That's actually him and Blessing. I didn't know that until someone was like, hey, did you know that? And I'm like, well, news to me. So that goes to show you, I don't know everything. And I get it. I get it. Nobody wants to, I mean, if you have friends, obviously you want to support them. You want to protect them. But, he is a big part of the gaming media circle. He says no. He says that he's not. I disagree. Kind of Funny is a conglomerate. They make a lot of money there. They are a power organization. And don't get me wrong, they worked hard to get there. Kind of Funny was founded on a whim and a prayer between four dudes that left IGN to go start this thing. And look where they are. They've gotten there from all the hard work. But it's if you're going to cover leaks for other places, you got to cover the leaks for this, and this is the big one. And on top of that, Hargeet, to add insult to injury, we have just learned, thanks to Post Up, our very good brother, that Sony has informed Insomniac Games that even though Spider-Man 2 has done really well, they need to lay off people. which is not good. Obviously you didn't see it. I'll email you it. Shout out to Post Up once again, who is posting this. And yeah, now
Damn.
a new round of layoffs are going to come the way of Insomniac Games after this horrendous leak. How you feeling, Hargeet?
Well, that's sad news. As usual, right? I mean, layoffs suck no matter where they are. They are what they are, and if they're going to happen right before Christmas, that's even worse. Hopefully, they just wait until after the New Year's and figure that crap out. But yeah, that I mean, it is what it is. The world is what it is. If revenues aren't there, layoffs happen. On top of that, I think there was some change in direction on a multiplayer thing, and unfortunately, when you do that, if you hired people to make that multiplayer stuff, you're probably going to be laying them off. I'd expect the same at Naughty Dog, unfortunately. And I think Sucker Punch was also working on something multiplayer that may have been pushed off. And if that's the case, we probably can, expect some layoffs there. That is kind of sad. Unfortunately, it is what it is. But
well, I'm going to break it down. In fact, instead of sending it to you, I'm going to read verbatim. Now, folks, again, this was delivered to the community via Post Up, who is just crossed, I think he said 11,000 followers on Twitter. And listen, I'm telling you right now, that dude, it was a pinnacle source of information during the ABK trials, and he continues to leverage his ridiculous gaming knowledge and on a daily basis deliver more. If you're not following him on the socials, folks, I'm here to tell you, you're doing it all wrong. So this is some excerpts from the first slide that he put out there, and I'm going to read it verbatim as we wait for, of course, Kay Asante to join us. And this is what it says, folks. These and other presentations provide a clear sense that Insomniac, despite its success and the seeming resources of its parent company, is grappling with how to reverse the trend of ballooning blockbuster development costs. And it has a quote: "We have to make future AAA franchise games for 350 million or less," reads one slide from a sustainable budgets presentation earlier this year. In today's dollars, that's like making Spider-Man 2 for 215 million. That's 65 million less than our Spider-Man 2 budget. Other slide puts the problem more starkly. Is 3 times the investment in Spider-Man 2 evident to anyone who plays the game? Second excerpt says this, and I quote, "A more recent presentation in November points to potential more drastic cuts." And it says this in parentheses: "Slimming down, Ratchet, and cutting new IP will not account for the reductions Sony is looking for," reads a PowerPoint note attributed to Insomniac's head, Ted Price. And this is where it gets worse, folks. To remove 50 to 75 people strategically, our best option is to cut deeply into Wolverine and Spider-Man 3, replacing lower performers with team members from Ratchet and the new IP. So this is going to delay these games.
Or kill them.
Or kill them.
Those games are probably gone.
Yeah. So
wow, that really sucks.
So here's the last excerpt, and I'll go to you first, Hargeet. It says this: "Business plans change, and Sony would not confirm if the discussed cuts are still on the table or already completed, but a note filed referencing a November 9th PlayStation offsite meeting reiterates the 50 to 75 people of cuts. The notes suggest the cuts are being asked of other PlayStation studios as well, including the line," and says this in parentheses, "There will be one studio closure. Sony did not respond when asked to clarify." And we just have to go back, Hargeet, to saying that by far this might be, and I don't even think it's might anymore, folks. I'm here to tell you that this is an absolute fact, the worst year in PlayStation platform history. And it's interesting because up until Hargeet, what was it? Maybe Sunday, there were still talks of Xbox going third party and leaving the business in 2027. And nobody in the gaming media, and I'm looking at you folks, have dared cover any of this. This is what's crazy to me. The information that we have right now has in fact been provided by the post ups, by the Hazardor Gamings, by the Idle Sloths, by the Tim Dogs, who's not even a leaker. He's just an Xbox fan. We're getting all of this information from the community, and nobody in the media wants to even acknowledge that there is a problem. I don't get it, Hargeet.
Yeah, I mean, this is all sad. It really is. Look, as I was saying before, like when we talked about this yesterday, if your model doesn't work, maybe you need to change your model. And like, I guess that is what they're doing, right? And it looks like they're gonna cut back. This really sucks. With Insomniac, literally has carried PlayStation 5. It's just sad that that's the studio that's gonna lose people. Wow, that really does kind of suck. But I guess whatever it is, what it is, they got to restructure. They got to do it. Now you can kind of understand that why these leadership changes are happening is like they're just repivoting again, right? There's obviously changes going on, and there's going to be a studio like closing down. My guess, the only one that makes sense is Media Molecule, maybe, right? Because they just shut down Dreams. Who else did they shut down? They already killed all of Japan studios and left one little thing that made was the little robot character.
Sony the Astrobot.
Yeah, Astro. Right. Yeah. So are they going to close that? Like what? I hope it's not like Naughty Dog or Sucker Punch or Sony Santa Monica.
I don't.
I would hope those are untouchable, but who knows?
Yeah. I would say that if there were a studio to go, and folks, listen, PlayStation's got great. They got an unimaginable, amazing talent.
They do have support
at PlayStation Studios.
Yeah.
But the one that I think, and again, this is a complete shot in the dark here because they haven't had anything since Days Gone, is Bend. And Bend Studios is crazy talented. Hey, we got the Wandering Dutch joining us. What's going on there, brother? Hey, look at this.
That's just sad news. It is what it is. But that's just sad news. I mean, we were going to talk about Greg, right? And we're gonna get to Greg as soon as I wanted.
Wow,
that's sad.
I wanted to get to this because this is literally breaking news, and of course, this was posted by Post Up, and it's right before Christmas. If it turns out that they're letting people go now, I mean, scumbag move of the universe. I mean, that's the best thing I got. Let's bring in the Black Viking. This is, like I said, this was just posted. When did Post Up put this on? Man, 6/17. So it's about an hour ago. Yeah. He posted this about an hour ago. I dropped it into the DM because I thought it would be worthy of a conversation. I mean, let's talk about it because this is basically pouring salt into the wound. Obviously, the wound that we're talking about is the massive leak that basically let everything out of the bag from now to almost 2031. That includes Wolverine, X-Men 2, X-Men 3. We learned that there was a Spider-Man online that looked and sounded freaking dope. Something that I would have played. They're talking about world events. They're talking about public events. All the Spider-Men converging to do something kind of like the way it was done in Destiny, which those public events were awesome, right?
Yeah.
And that got canceled. It's, I guess PlayStation doesn't do multiplayer. But this new information regarding the layoffs and how Spider-Man 2, even though it sold well, didn't hit the numbers it was expecting to hit. Wow.
Yeah. So I got two companies in mind: Blockbuster and BlackBerry.
Interesting. You said that in the green room too.
What are those two companies? They were on top of their game. They were market leaders for what they were, and they did not change with the times. They were out of touch, right? You cannot keep a studio afloat releasing a game every 3 to 5 years based off of the first week's sales alone, which is why they had the heavy push on gas games. But they probably didn't hire the talent to be able to make sure that they could make successful games as a service. So you have that going against you. You still want your walled garden, and you focus probably more on hardware this generation than you have on actual games. So the gas game stuff didn't go as planned, so you have to repivot again. Now they're doing this maybe $80 to $100 games with less hours within them, like the leak showed on Spider-Man 3. It's really unfortunate, like, for the studios that are tied up into all that, because their parent company can't keep them on board pretty much. But the shareholders are going to be shareholders, and they want to see Fortnite money. They want to see Take-Two money. And if they're not delivering, then yeah, there'll be cuts, and they'll be pivoting and pivoting and pivoting, and then hopefully they can do something about it, because that'll be a sad world if something like PlayStation dies or Naughty Dog gets shut down, or, like, I don't want that. You know what I mean?
I don't think
Yeah.
anybody actually wants that. Yeah, and you know
Yeah.
what's? See, this is where now I have to come out and say this publicly. Okay, the one thing that you have to admit about the Xbox gaming community, there are few that are in there that are potentially toxic and that go out of their way to do some mean-spirited things, but it's not a lot when you compare it to the PlayStation. Now, not everybody in the PlayStation, not all their fans, not all the social media are bad guys. That's
Right.
ridiculous to suggest that. But there is a subset of certain individuals within content creation that have said publicly they were hoping that Xbox would just die off. Whereas I don't think a single Xbox player who supports PlayStation, kind of like most of us do, would ever consider saying such a thing.
It'd be the most anti-consumer thing. You think whoever's in first and they have a monopoly on gaming, they'll charge whatever they want to, and you have to eat the sugar cubes. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Not the cube swinging around Spider-Man 2.
No, not those.
Oh, okay.
The ones in the stables.
Gotcha. Those sugar cubes. Okay. Yeah. Keep those ponies fed. You know what I'm saying? No, we're just poking around. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'll say this: you don't want to see any studio get closed, because look, folks, this world that we're currently living in, if you look at like what's going on, let's say, for instance, just take San Francisco. That is a place where you have people, grown men, like in their 30s, living with 6 other grown men because they can't afford the rent in California or San Diego, or for more specifically San Francisco. So you just imagine if you're working and you're putting in your 40, 50, 60 hours a week and you still can't make it, you imagine if you lose your job. You don't want anyone to lose their job. You don't want to see anyone at Sony have come in and have to close studios. Nobody wants that. And if you do, I don't think you're reading the room right, because that's not being a good human. Sorry, it's just not. God, that's taking console war to a level that's just disgusting, and we don't want no part of that. But this should be a call to the gaming media to take their head out of their asses and start reporting on the mismanagement that is currently going on at Sony, because they were very quick to hashtag fire Phil Spencer, right, when things weren't going so well. Hashtag fire Matt Booty, right, and the Xbox hashtag third party. But we see what's going on. The writing is on the wall, folks. We are seeing this. This is a daily event now. My question is, when is somebody from the media going to take up? And I'm not. And there are some folks. Let's not get it twisted here. There are Paul Tassies. There are the Jez Cordons of the world. There are, of course, Tom Henderson and Tom Warren, all fine journalists that I look to. Now, granted, I don't always agree with someone like a Paul Tassi, but I really dig what Paul puts down. Now, we don't have to agree, and we're probably never always going to agree, but that's perfectly fine. But if there had to be 4 journalists that I look to for information that I trust, those are the four. Now, I want to bring in the Wandering Dutch. First of all, Dutch brother, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I know that you're going to have a spicy hot take. We're going to talk about Kind of Funny in a second, because I think that there is a pointing off of responsibility by Greg and the Kind of Funny crew, in my opinion. I think that was a bit of a cop-out. I've said this, folks. I'm not here, trying to get subs by dumping on Greg. I love that dude, and I've been supporting Kind of Funny since they started 9 years ago, and I will continue to support them with views, with monetary stuff behind the scenes. I'm in the bag. I like what they do over there. I did not like what they did here. We're going to get into that, but Wandering Dutch, I want to talk about specifically the leaks and this new information coming the way of Post Up, which of course breaks down that there are some big budget problems coming the way of Sony, and Insomniac Games is going to lose upwards of 75 developers. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean it's horrible to say, but it's inevitable in the way that they've built the company. Mm-hmm. When you're building massive single player AAA IP that cost hundreds of millions of pounds, but they have no legacy funding from that game other than the game in itself, it's bound to be a problem at some point. They don't, which is why they were so concerned with Call of Duty, because that's where they get all their third-party funding from. Call of Duty's MTX, microtransactions, battle passes, etc., they always got a portion of that. They won't get a portion of that now. They'll get a very small slither of that compared to what they used to get. But in comparison, their own IP, which is why we've been focusing, why we've been saying to people specifically this week when they cancelled the factions spin-off, was it doesn't have to be a games as a service game, but they need to have multiplayer games in their portfolio in order to generate ongoing revenue. This is why Microsoft have their hands and fingers in things all over the place. This is why they have games as a service games. It's why they have multiplayer games. It's why they have and continue to build on the subscription service that they have in place, and they're focusing on it. Like the PS Plus subscription service for Sony is an afterthought. It's not something that they think of as what could be an actual money spinner if they put their heads into it and thought about it. They're not going out and finding these new titles to put in their day and date that will entice people forward, that will cost them far less than building a AAA IP. They're not thinking of these things that can build up ongoing revenue. And that's the thing that Sony's missing. Like these AAA IPs, they're great. We love their single player experiences, but ultimately they are unsustainable. How can you sustain 350 million for Spider-Man? And even then, in the report, it says 350 million. Does this look like 3 times the amount of investment that Spider-Man 1 had?
Exactly.
It doesn't. Would you have thought, looking at Spider-Man 1 versus Spider-Man 2, that it cost them 3 times the amount to create?
Well, Spider-Man 1 cost $81 million to make, right? Spider-Man 2, if you're saying that's 3 times the amount, which is over nearly $250,000 that's
a significant difference. And for them, they're saying Spider-Man 3 or the next games will have a cap of 350 million. 350 million is a substantial amount. Like they were laughing at people when they were saying, "Oh, Halo cost 500 million." No, it didn't. Like Halo Infinite and the engine and the staff and the multiplayer cost 500 million. Like an engine revamp was the significant portion of that.
I actually think that might have been the new studio might have been a part of that as well.
Yeah. But that's like a one-off occurrence. Like we understand that the cost of AAA games is going up because the cost of wages is going up. When you're not being a competitive employer, when it comes to offering the wages, your best members are going to go where they're valued most. They're going to go to the going market rate. That is how the market works. So if you're not being appreciated for the work that you do monetarily, you will go to another studio to earn the money that you think you deserve for the work that you do. It's just part and parcel of it. And therefore, studios have to be more competitive, which means the wages are going up. Your time's like 100, or 200, 200, 300 people on £100,000 plus a year as developers. It's easily stacking up. You're talking tens of millions of pounds a year just on wages before you've even started talking about development, and then development time, and then costs, and then funding, and then getting the actors in and paying the actors' wages, and then doing the research and development, and then the dev time in itself, then the overheads, the rest of the overheads that goes with it, then the music, then the soundtrack, then the audio team, and then everything that goes into making these games.
And Dutch, the massive license cost
that
we found out in this leak,
which
right, $120 million per game.
Yeah.
$120 million plus royalties.
Yeah.
Yo, that's crazy.
Wow.
That's what happens when you build an IP from Marvel, though. Like, if you want, and Sony clearly wants to be in that race, they want to have a foothold in that race, which is why they've got the licensing agreement in the first place. But to have a foothold, you're going to have to shoulder that burden. Like, Sony as a company can't be going, all right, well, the devs have to pay for the fact that we want this licensing agreement. I'm sorry, but it shouldn't work like that in an ideal world. Like, Sony leadership should say, right, we'll shoulder that because we've chosen to be competitive in this space, so we will shoulder that. But it doesn't. We're not in an ideal world. So unfortunately, developers are getting the brunt of it. Now, the issue Sony have, though, in the long run, is the fact that they don't have a way of generating money after the game is sold. Once the game is sold, it's sold. There's nothing else they can make money from it with. Like, you can say, oh, merchandise, yeah, but what merchandise of Spider-Man have you seen other than the fact that Marvel themselves make merchandise for Spider-Man?
It's an interesting question, Dutch. Dude, like, Spider-Man is a Marvel property. If you're going to make merchandise, doesn't Marvel make the money?
Marvel would make the money.
Marvel
Marvel has all of the merchandising rights, toys, pajamas, lunchboxes.
Yeah.
And I think they had that in the license agreement. If it's not the game, it's Marvel.
It's Marvel.
Yeah. They've got the game rights. That's it. So, I mean, the game and the film, but even then, it's similar with a film. They have to release a film every X amount of years, or they will lose the license. It's as simple as that. So they have no way of making any additionals from this outside of microtransactions. So the only way they can do that is to put that into a multiplayer-esque portion of a Spider-Man.
Yep.
Now, how are you going to feasibly do that into a Spider-Man multiplayer other than selling skins? Okay, we'll send you fancy new suits, but how many new suits can you do until that becomes null and void? Like, so, and this isn't just a Spider-Man issue. This is just a Sony issue in general. They don't have anything that generates them recurring revenue from a first-party standpoint. That's their issue. Doesn't have to be games as a service. Just in general, any multiplayer game. Like, this is why people were crying out about factions. Like, everyone from factions community said, we didn't want a games as a service game. We just wanted a remade or remastered version of The Last of Us factions that you give us originally. That would have been fine. And then you can add in your little season passes and your microtransactions and weapon skins or whatever on top of that.
Yep.
People buy weapon
Character
skins,
for that matter.
character skins, new maps, whatever. You can do that on the fly. But release the base, the core that you had remade, and then do the rest afterwards would have been a far less costlier approach than trying to build a whole new games as a service universe in The Last of Us. It was a waste of time, 4 years of time and money. But it's a Sony issue. We've been saying it for a long time. Not everybody wants multiplayer, but unfortunately, to survive in the console space, you have to do something that is generating you recurring revenue. And single-player games don't generate diddly.
No, they don't. Yeah. Unfortunately, they generate. You get your initial sales, right?
Yep.
You get your back-end sales, sure. You get your holiday sales, excellent. You get your pack and bundles. Hey, buy console X, you get X game. Everyone's happy.
But even then, we've seen the redeemed on Insomniac's games was like 5% or 3% or something. 3%. So even then, the bundles wasn't a big portion of what they were making.
Yeah.
And then you don't get second-hand sales. So when those games go into second-hand retailers and then somebody else picks it up second-hand, they don't get any of that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, there is no other revenue way for them to do it. This is why Microsoft's business model going forwards, is the sustainable route. As much as they might not be pumping out these big AAA, like, visually impressive games yet,
Yes.
which they will.
Hellblade.
They have other means. That's the best thing about it, is they're not just henpecking themselves into one area. They've got, like, okay, well, we have a Fable, that's completely single player. We have a Hellblade, that's single player. We have Perfect Dark, which will be single player. We have X, Y, and Z single players, but we also have Forza Motorsport and Halo Infinite and Gears of War and Sea of Thieves and blah, 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 and Elder Scrolls and Call of Duty and Fallout 76 and Grounded. You name it. Like, we have an abundance of things for everybody to play, and a lot of those have recurring revenue streams.
Yes, they sure do. Yep.
It's a
multiplayer plays the bills.
Yeah, it does.
You have to have something that pays the bills, unfortunately. But I've said this weeks and weeks ago. I've said this for a long time. The issue with Sony is they're impatient. The reason their games as a service won't work isn't because the developers aren't capable. It's because Sony aren't patient enough for them to be successful.
Yeah.
No games as a service game has ever launched in the right. Fortnite was terrible when it launched. Now look at it.
Yeah. Behemoth.
Like, Sea of Thieves was terrible when it launched. It had nothing. There was nothing.
30 million players later, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
35 million players, exactly. It's insane. But every even Elder Scrolls Online, terrible, absolutely horrendous when it launched. Now look at it.
Bad. Yeah.
Fallout 76 was trash when it launched.
Terrible.
Shocking. Now look at it. Every game you can ever mention that was games as a service was never good when it first started. Never. For the first year, maybe year and a half, 2 years even, they were terrible. And then they eventually got better, and that's only because of patience and perseverance. Sony do not have patience. We've seen that with Days Gone.
They have talent.
Didn't get a good Metacritic score. It performed. It got 8 million to 10 million people purchasing the game, but the Metacritic wasn't there, so they just canned it. That's not patience. That's not perseverance.
Well, so I'll say this: it's pretty interesting when you want to talk about, you want to compare apples to oranges. First of all, I want to welcome in Kay Asante. What's going on, my brother? How you feeling?
Man, it's been a long day. I'm happy to be here. It's been a while. I'm sorry I'm late. I'm listening to the great conversation. Thank you for having me and all the great panel members. Dutch is back. What's going on, brother? It's been a minute. Good to see you, sir. And so is the Black Viking and my man.
Looking forward to the new season in February, by the way.
Oh, you need to stop it, sir. You need to stop it.
I'm glad to see you back.
But I'm happy to be here.
So,
thank you, sir.
We're going to be covering a lot, obviously, but I want to go to UK Asante before I get to the super chats and we move on to the kind of funny conversation that a lot of people want to have. And I want to have that conversation because I want to read my tweet to Greg, and I want to read the tweet that I actually retweeted, which of course is Lord Attic from the Iron Lords podcast. I thought he said something pretty interesting, especially from a podcaster point of view. And I thought that his point was incredibly valid, and he brought evidence and talking points. Like, hey, listen, you shouted out and you laughed at these leaks. What's changed? So we'll get to that in a second. But I don't know how much you heard, but obviously Post Up. We all do. He's a powerful member of the community. He posted something a little bit over an hour ago that apparently there's going to be a pretty substantial hit to Insomniac Games in the form of 50 to 75 layoffs. This is on top of the leak, so this is insult to injury. But according to the information, the business slide that that Post Up has presented, there may even be, according to this, and I quote, there will be one studio closure, though Sony did not respond when asked to clarify which studio it would be. This comes on the heels of $350 million price tag for Spider-Man 3. And according to the document, in today's dollars, that's like making Spider-Man 2 for $215 million. That's $65 million less than our Spider-Man 2 budget. So actually, again, when you do the math, and we're not mathematicians, Spider-Man 2 cost $270 million to make. That is just to make the game. That is not the advertising, which we have learned
which
through
they
these
always say
leaks.
they double it, right?
They double it up. So if they spent $270 million to make the game, they're probably and will have spent $270 million in advertising, which brings it over $500 million investment.
Yep. So that's how much they need to pull in order for at least for it to break even before they even start looking at any kind of profit. It's just wild. It's just wild. And okay, so my thoughts. I've been working hard all day, and as such, I don't get the stream of consciousness that is X.com. And that is at an office now, which sucks, by the way. Office life sucks. Anyway, so I get what I can when I can, not often, as often as I used to. Well, I have been getting a lot of these news stories coming in dribs and drabs, and first off, it was super exciting to see. Obviously, we initially saw the leaks and all of that. People asking all the questions about why they didn't give up the money, and would it have been better not to have any of this stuff come out, and all of this stuff, which was super interesting. But beyond all of this stuff, this extra, and now adding this on top. Yeah, I feel pretty bad for Insomniac in this right now. Like, it's raining and pouring on them, and by and large, I don't know. I think it's Sony's fault. They've been doing some bad bookkeeping, and it's seeming to come to a problem right here. And it's actually a very sad state of affair, because if you look at it, Insomniac can be credited for keeping PlayStation afloat the whole generation at this point.
Indeed.
Most, if not all, of the prolific output coming to the PlayStation 5 in a first-party capacity is coming from Insomniac, right? And with the exception of Spider-Man 2 and its bugs at launch, they usually come correct every time. Like they don't miss story, gameplay. They're usually great at that. Anytime anybody tells you that there's going to be 5 or 4 or whatever ridiculous number of releases per year, and they're all coming out of Insomniac, I don't bat an eye, because I know it's Insomniac. They are prolific. They have done this for years, and they've even proved it as first party on PlayStation side. But as you can see, PlayStation seems to be kind of going the route, and I hate to say it, but it seems to be kind of going the route of Embracer, where they kind of took in a lot, expecting it to turn into something, and they're realizing that as much as they took in, they can't keep them afloat. So even the best of ideas, because man, that Spider-Man Online would have been a cool idea. I'm just saying, they can't keep that afloat. They can't even get it to the finish line to then have more revenue, to then have more resources to then provide ongoing content. So they got to kill it in the crib. It's just really sad. It's super sad. Now, I know we'll talk about how people have been discussing this kind of news and how much money they're spending and all of this. I think Insomniac has proven themselves really a great developer, right? I think me and Boom, you and I talked about it. For you and I,
brother. Yep.
Yeah, for both of us, I put Insomniac above Naughty Dog as far as creativity and stuff. And that's because I have the full experience of Insomniac even before they were PlayStation users. I played a lot of their VR games. I played a lot of their games in general. So I know how good they can be. I don't know, man. I can't find myself to think that this is how they would be doing business, or how this would be turning out if they were still independent. I'm not saying it was a mistake to have purchased them or anything. This is how the cookie crumbles, as it were. It's just sad to see that this is where they are with it. You know what I mean? So, as it is newsworthy, and I'm still happy and kind of, I don't know. I'm of two minds, if you will, of the leak of the roadmap, right? Because half of me is like, yay, I can't believe they're gonna make all the games I've always wanted. I'm super excited. And the other half of me goes, I'm the dude that railed about the salt mines, and now one of my favorite developers has been locked into salt mines. And I'm sitting there going, "Yay, give me more Marvel games." You know what I mean? I feel kind of like a hypocrite right now. Yes,
Yeah, just
but
I think
I kind of feel sad about
my-
it.
I was going to say,
I'm sorry.
I think my issue specifically
Uh-huh.
with the salt mines thing isn't the fact that
Yeah,
they're locked into Marvel. I think it's the fact
Yeah.
that they're doing 6 AAA games in 8 years. I think that's
Yes.
the issue.
yes. One after another,
That's
after
pretty
another.
crazy, right?
Sometimes in multiple succession. Like, you know,
I think-
they
I think
are.
the
Like I
issue
said, they are the
gonna have
masters
there
of
is
it.
that. I think
Yeah.
the issue we're going to have there is the creativity. I personally think the creativity
Yeah.
will be stifled with that amount of games back to back.
Yes.
Like, there's not much you can change in that period of time between title
Yeah.
releases that will make
Yeah.
a substantial difference per title.
I mean,
That's
those
the
stories are
issue.
also coming from the comics, right? So it's not
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
they're totally coming out of nowhere. But so just to put in perspective for the numbers, if they are spending, let's say it's 500-ish million, they would have to sell at full price. They would have to sell 12 million copies. That's not really realistic. Just to put it, like what happened with the original Spider-Man, it sold 9 million and had 90 million consoles to go to. They have 50 million consoles. They're not going to sell 12 million copies.
No.
That's just
so-
an
Maybe
insane
so-
they're going to be shifting
gentlemen.
to PC as well. Like I 100% guarantee it that they will be shifting.
Yeah, they're gonna have
and
to.
breaking
They need to
down
do day
the
and date.
walls are
To
there.
be
They
honest.
New
need to do
leadership
day
is going
and
to
date.
come. Yeah, when
Yeah.
new
They
leadership
need to
shows
do
up,
day and
it's going to be without a doubt. Let me ask a quick question, gentlemen, and I genuinely want to know this. Who said they couldn't just cap it at 80 million like they did, like the budget of Spider-Man 1 and call it a day? I understand the Spider-Man 2 costs what it costs, and they're purporting to see that it'll cost this and that and the third. Why not? Where is leadership saying, "Hey, buddy, no go, cut. This is where you stand. No further. Let all your creativity flow. Here's your budget." Why is
Yeah.
that not a factor in the equation? Like,
It
what
needs to
is
be.
forcing them to grow like that? What is?
needs to be.
It's
And I think-
as if it's like we can't help it. The money monster. It's just taking all. Like, what is it?
I think
They
yes,
could
this
easily
is what's
say-
happening now, right? They are
know?
recognizing it, and now you're going to get the layoffs, and now they're going to have to like right size. Which I mean, it sucks.
But
It
that's
is what it is.
odd. Like for example, in
Is
like
it though? Because like
No,
if you,
but
if you
think
go
of
back
it
to
this
Sean
way.
Layden, right? Sean Layden
Okay,
said
sure.
this was going to happen, right?
He
And
did.
well, yeah,
I
sure.
think he was telling Sony, "Yo, we can't keep doing this.
But
I
see,
got to
but
change
that's the thing.
direction."
That's
and
the
they
thing.
said, "Get the heck out of here."
I think that is what he was doing, speaking specifically to Sony's bad business model, because that's not sustainable, as we all have all been saying. The movie or TV industry, for example, the first season of any show, right, is usually the best they'll get as far as the budget, and then season 2, it's a little less. Season 3, it's a little less than that. Why? Because at that point, you have your users already, right? All you got to do now is iterate on your story, so they try to squeeze you. There's never an industry where, oh, the next time we're going to add more money. Oh, and even more. Like, no. It's less money for more
Unless you're
profit.
Star
That is
Wars.
the way it is.
Or
well, unless you're
Marvel.
well, okay,
unless,
so yeah.
unless you're an Amazon IP, that's as well.
Yeah. Well, see, you see that they all seem to be swimming in the same soup, right? They all seem to be making the same bad decisions. The Disneys and the Marvels and the Sonys and the. I don't understand why that seems to be like. I get that is a factor in the equation, and they've made those decisions, and people are criticizing them about it. Why has no one decided to make that budget a solid statement and not move the ball? I mean, I know for sure that Microsoft has been doing that.
Yep.
Right? They have been setting
Absolutely have.
actually to detrimental degrees where we're like, come on, man, give Delilah or whatever the studios a little more money, let them flesh out their game, right? They go, yo, you're great, you're gonna do work. Here's your budget. King, it's in stone. Move on, right? And that's how it works, right? These guys seem to be ballooning based on however their developers want them to balloon, and then later on they're facing the consequences. It's just very, very unfortunate.
Yeah, so you're right. You're right, Case. All of you guys have made very valid points. Not only are the games ballooning in terms of cost, but you can already see through the leaks that the only way to cut costs is by layoffs and by potentially like reusing assets and then making games shorter.
Yep.
So it's already evident with Wolverine. we're only going to get 11 hours of gameplay and 4 hours of cinematics and a $70 full price game. Venom is an 8 to 10 hour standalone experience. Now, are all the other games in the pipeline all the way to 2035 going to be the same thing? And I think they will lose a lot of fanfare if I can sit down for a weekend and play a game and I have to wait 3 whole years.
Maybe more than that, dude.
For another one.
For another one.
Yeah.
There's shows longer. There's seasons of a show longer than that, and I can watch another season the next year.
So let me throw a curveball in this conversation for a quick moment.
That was in '92, but the game Starfield where I put 200 plus hours in.
Right.
Oh no, that's a 7.
Oh,
right.
Stop with the stop. let me throw a quick curveball into this conversation. We've seen the numbers. We're talking about how much they had to pay and the licensing fees and all that. If Sony, who has licensing rights to movie licensing rights to Spider-Man, and we've all hypothesized how they leverage it in their negotiations. If Sony had to pay that much to Disney for the right to use these characters, imagine how much Microsoft has to pay.
Well, that's why they're limited to. They're limited.
You know
to
what I
they're
mean?
Doing. I mean, obviously, there's a reason why specifically Blade has been chosen, not because he's a second tier character. Blade is dope, and like I said, if you are a Marvel fan, you know who the Midnight Suns are, and obviously, I'm not talking about the game that released that had 18,000 people a part of the crew. That's not the Midnight Suns. The Midnight Suns rolls deep with about 5 or 6 people. Moon Knight, you know, obviously Ghost Rider. You know, you've had Daredevil join occasionally. You have Blade. You know, there are only a handful. Werewolf by Night has also been a part of the Midnight Suns. Punisher has been a part of the Midnight Suns as well. Like I said, I that's what excites me about the Blade IP is that there's a potential for them to really move this into a trilogy. And again, we don't know who Blade's antagonist is going to be. Is it going to be Dracula? Well, I don't know. We'll find out in a couple of years. As the producer said, let us cook. So we're just going to let them do that. But I do want to move on to the conversation about how these leaks are reported. Because again, I've said this before. I don't like a lot of his stuff. I'm talking about David Jaffe. David is, you know, he's a big part of the community. He obviously was responsible for bringing God of War and Twisted Metal to PlayStation in the early days of PlayStation 1. He has since, of course, retired from game development. He has a very popular podcast, as we know, and he's also very boisterous, and he's very on point, and he's very unapologetic. And a lot of people dig that about him. And I'm not saying that I don't. I'm saying a lot of the stuff that he talks about, I don't necessarily agree with. But today, or was it last night, he sat down with Adam Sessler. Now, Adam is also very much cut from the same cloth as David Jaffe is. And they kind of went in on Greg Miller. Now, they both admit that they like Greg, but they kind of went in on Greg for his commentary about, hey, listen, we're not going to cover it because we're gonna you know, approach this from a human element point of view. And I appreciate that, because at the end of the day, I don't care about Insomniac's roadmap being put out there and Sony having to, you know, once again put out servers that are put together with bubblegum and paper clips. I'm concerned, and I've said this before, this is my third time saying this, my concern is for the actual developers who may have their personal information put out on the interwebs, where if it gets there, that's it. It's done. And that's my concern. My concern is for the developers. You know, I don't care about gameplay of Wolverine being out there. Well, you know, that sucks. Yes, it does. It sucks. But I'm concerned about the people. But there is a conversation to be had, and I want to have that conversation. I want to have that adult conversation tonight. And I want to actually bring up Lord Addict's tweet that sparked me to want to be a part of it. But before we get that, there's 2 commercials I want to run, folks. One at the front and one on the back end. Obviously, if you do know, this is a still mom and pop channel. We like helping mom and pop businesses. And we have teamed up with a Nerd Propellant, who has a business that he handcrafts this incredible, gaming artwork from shadow boxes to actual statues that look really dope. They are one of a kind. If you use the code Mr. Boomstick, you get 20% off your order. So I'm going to run that ad real quick, and then of course we've also teamed up with the Valeri Game Pillow Company, and they're pretty good. I have something to talk about them on the back end. So please just give me what is it? It's 34 seconds. Check it out. All right, that is the wrong one. So to Nerd Propellant for providing that video. And obviously, we're not getting anything on the back end, folks. I'm simply doing it because we're small, right? We're under 14K. And PS, by the way, folks, as of tonight, we are 99 subs away from 14K. We have almost 800 people here. I mean, listen, I don't like to beg, folks. I don't ask for much, but to hit 14K before Christmas would be pretty dope. And if you are finding the channel, I saw a lot of new names. Please, man, consider helping us get past that finish line of 14K. And, you know, obviously the next goal is 15 and then 25 and 100. And, you know, we'll get there eventually. But 14K in a year that the channel has produced, and we just got our stats from YouTube, 1.5 million views in 2023. That is madness.
That's
considering the size of the channel. And we thank, you know, we wouldn't be there without, well, you checking out the show each and every day. But listen, let me catch up on these super chats, gentlemen, and we will get right into the conversation of Kind of Funny, because I think there is a conversation to be had. We have, okay, the first super chat of the day comes to us from generous friend of the program, RC Polygons. He drops, folks, a $10 super chat and says, there's big news in entertainment. WB and Paramount are in the early stages or talks to merge. Nothing set in stone yet. If after the merger, just imagine if Microsoft got WB and all of those IP come to Xbox Game Pass. Yeah, we were actually joking about that in the green room. Could you imagine if once, you know, one joins the other and Microsoft jumps in and buys them, and it would be something else for sure. We also have Crazy G14 drops a generous £5 super chat and says, even with the leak news, can we applaud Lulu Chang for her work, attitude, and all around badass this year? And we're going to get into that because, yes, if you didn't know, and I'm actually quite devastated for this, Lulu Chang Merservi, who is, in my opinion, a pinnacle aspect of this ABK deal win for Microsoft and a loss for Sony. Obviously, her tenacity on social media is unlike anything we've ever seen. She wears it on her sleeve. She has been a big part of this community since the announcement of ABK. It was her public admission that Jim Ryan, former head of PlayStation, who said, and I quote, "I don't want a deal. I just want to block your merger." And that was, I think, the turning point for ABK to eventually be put to bed. And unfortunately, she announced today that a part of the changing of the guard at Activision, she is leaving as of January 31st. I don't know where she is going to end up. I can say with full authority that wherever she goes and whoever hires her is going to be getting a very talented woman that knows the business, and wherever she lands, she is going to dominate as she did when she worked for Activision. But let me, so shout out to you, Crazy G14, for bringing it up. Super appreciate it. We have two new channel members. Mitchie Pooh, welcome to the channel, brother. And thank you for the generosity. And Rain Bolts, thank you, brother. Super appreciate you joining the channel. We have a super chat here from Gerald Mack, our very good brother. He drops, folks, a $5 super chat and says in all caps, Xbox World Order is fully operational. Shout out to the gray beards, which I actually shaved before the show because my beard was ridiculous. And the Xbox community, hashtag gamers rule. Indeed, we do. Richard Maharg drops a very generous, wow, $20 super chat. And he says, as of last Thursday, Series X has outsold PlayStation 5 by 2,500 units on Amazon. Merry Christmas, people, and starting to notice PlayStation problems and switching perhaps. I mean, in those slides that are a part of this leak, that was Sony's fear. Their fear was that we can't compete with Game Pass, and there's going to be a transition period where people are going to see that 76.43, at least that's what it costs here in New Rochelle, New York, for a PlayStation game is not going to be cutting the mustard when you can go over to the other team, get all of these games on top of second party, third party, and indies for $17 a month. I don't think that is going to happen. How soon? We don't know. B Martin 001, folks. He has gifted 5 Double Barrel Gaming subscriptions. Brother, that is incredibly generous of you. Thank you for that. That is super, super nice of you. We definitely appreciate it here. Our good brother, J Rock. You know who he is. This guy is running rampant. He's like the ultimate warrior on Twitter or X, and he's also leader of Gremlin Nation. He drops, folks, a generous $5 super chat and says, I find this thing kind of funny. Oh, I wonder who said that last night. So, that sounds very familiar, Black Viking. Shout out to the Black Viking and the whole panel. Shout out to you, J-Rock, brother. Super appreciate that. And I was actually said that. I said, it's kind of funny you're here, Mr. Viking. Well, we're going to get to him in a hot second. And Bold Alpha Wolfpack, generous friend of the program, drops a $5 super chat and says, I think they have to do more with Wolverine to maintain the shock and awe factor, especially with storyboard floating around. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not going to front those. Okay, I know that leaks are bad, but I hope that there's a collector's edition that comes with floors so I can run around my house with them. I thought that Wolverine footage looked dope.
Never run with scissors, Boom. Never run with scissors. Come on.
So listen, let's talk about what happened yesterday with Kind of Funny. Greg Miller, of course, Blessing was his co-host on that particular show. They apparently didn't make a lot of friends. A lot of people called him out for what they were talking about. And so I want to bring up the tweet from Lord Attic. Obviously, you know who he is. He's a part of the Iron Lords podcast. He put out a tweet that I thought was very well written. And he says, this whole leak should be handled in a conversation I am down to have as a content creator and media. However, Kind of Funny Vids looking crazy out here, posting that with these on their channels. And of course, he goes on to say, I hate that Insomniac Games devs got doxxed, but more than anything. But he also goes on to say that people are so inconsistent. And what are we talking about? Well, he goes and he does if you're gonna call somebody out, you got to bring the evidence. And Games Daily, which of course is Kind of Funny, they had he pulled up 4 of their past thumbnails, and the first one is Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League leaked. Then he goes on to say with Capcom release dates leaked. That's another thumbnail. Third one is Far Cry 7 leaked. Of course, it has all 3 of the antagonists from the 3 games prior on there. And fourth and final one is The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom leaked. And of course, with all the branding that you would expect, that says Games Daily from Kind of Funny. So I saw this and I figured, you know what? I wanted to respond in a proper manner because, like I said, I make no qualms or excuses. I like Greg Miller. I like Blessing. I like the whole crew over there. There isn't anybody I don't like over there. I've been supporting them, behind the scenes for many, many years since they started. Kind of funny when him, Colin, and the other 2 guys left IGN on a Women of Prayer. And look where Kind of Funny has gotten. It's a conglomerate, folks. It's big money business, and they worked hard to get there. So this is what I said, and I'll go first to the Black Viking on this. I said I'm a huge fan of Game Over Greggy, and proudly support Kind of Funny Vids. Though I agree with Lord Addict, Kind of Funny Vids has covered huge gaming leaks in the past, as depicted below. There are important conversations to be had here, one of which is why and or how does this keep happening to Sony and PlayStation Studios, meaning these hacks. This is not the first time, folks. This dates back all the way to 2006, where they brought down PSN, and they have not changed the front door lock. They've been burglarized 7 times already. I don't get it. So, Black Viking, let's talk about it. What are your thoughts on some of the controversy, some of the criticism coming the way of Greg Miller not wanting to cover this, but politely and openly covering leaks on other studios and developers? I think you're muted. Let me see. Yeah, you're muted.
Well, okay, my
go.
fault. I find it kind of funny. Boom.
Indeed, you do.
So the excuse for not wanting to cover it was because of it was a ransomware attack, right? But they showed no mercy to NVIDIA nor Capcom, and those are the same instances.
What about Grand Theft Auto 6
or GTA 6? Yeah, I mean they covered every leak. Right. So the hypocrisy there, and we have no idea. Like, I don't know if you being a cameo on Spider-Man makes Sony kind of your employer at that point. I don't know. You know what I mean? While the game is out, I don't know if you're under contract. And like I said, I like Kind of Funny games, right? Like, I recommend them to a bunch of people. When it comes to they're entertaining, right? And I like Paris. I like Greg. But this was insane, and everybody could look right through it. It was totally nuts. And I wonder if they pushed themselves into a corner to where you can now no longer talk about leaks in any manner, because you will get called out like crazy. And it's not just Greg, it was the team's decision at Kind of Funny to do it. So anytime one of you guys want to talk about leaks in any manner or shape or form, you're going to get called out. Yeah.
You're the picture of painting yourself into a corner is exactly what you're referring to, and I absolutely agree, because that is going to be a question that is going to be brought up, and I think you're onto something. I don't think it ends with, hey, we just covered leak A. I think that if you cover any leak moving forward on your media conglomerate, that you are going to be called to the carpet because you took this hardline stance. And obviously we know he has friends in Insomniac, and there's nothing wrong with having developer friends,
right? But you have to do your job.
Yes. And this is one of the things that Greg said that I disagree with, is he kind of did one of these, we're not gaming media. That is not true. They are a gaming media conglomerate. They make a lot of money. This isn't a podcast like mine, who barely has 14,000 subs. They've got
their own studio.
Yeah, they have. Well, I actually said that to Kayasante. I said they have their own freaking studio. I'm podcasting behind my Christmas tree, for Christ's sake. Yeah. Like this is life. So
if you're not a gaming critic or gaming media, then how was you able to vote at the gaming awards?
Wait a second now. I did not even consider that, sir. That is brilliant on your part. Yeah.
Bars.
Yeah. King bars, I would even dare say. Yeah, I mean, that, you know what? That's wow. That I have not heard that angle. Dude, that is absolutely brilliant. Yeah. Really, honestly. Thank you for sharing that, because I didn't even consider they being a part of the Game Awards. I thought media was only part of it. Oh, that's right, but you're not media. So does your vote count? I don't know. We have to investigate this further. Anything else you want to add to this?
No, I'm good, man. I'll let everybody else get their little 2 cents in. I'll probably add in between there.
Okay, yeah, by all means,
Yeah,
just pop in whenever you want. Harky, let's bring this up, brother, because again, this is a conversation, because I did not even equate that to them being a part of the Game Awards. But if you're not a critic, if you're not media, you can't be a part of that. So now I think it kind of really makes Greg look even worse at this point. What are your thoughts, man?
Look, obviously he was credentialed media before, right? He was at IGN of all places.
Yes.
Get over it. You're a media. And then they created their own little media thing. And when it comes to taking the privileges of it, like when they, get called into the media access for the Keeleys or Xbox or PlayStation, they're happy to take it, right? So don't tell me you're not part of the media. You're a part of the media. Shout out to Greg. I met him. He's a great guy. I just disagree with this assertion. When there's probative value for the leak as far as the industry, you have to cover it. That's just not something you can ignore. Like what we just heard, right? Like they're having turmoil and now we're hearing layoffs. Like these just follow through. You have to cover these things. It is what it is, right? And if you're going to have a show every freaking day on the gaming, you have to cover the gaming media, like gaming news. That's what you do, Boom, right? It's whatever comes up. Hey, that's what you cover. That's what this is a big story. There's no way to ignore it, right? And I don't want to pile on them. I just, Greg, obviously he felt the way about this.
But we're having a conversation here. No
right?
one's piling.
I get it. And Greg, I get you're emotional because, hey, these people, and this is the same discussion I had when I was talking to Tina Mini. Like, hey, you came from this world. How does that work? And they're like, we just don't talk about it. So, because if they're gonna ask, I'm not gonna talk to the people I know about this because, it just doesn't make sense, right? So, because we have a personal relationship, it's just gonna get in the way. So we don't engage that way. So I can understand Greg having that problem to say, well, I can't engage with these people. They're friends, right? Okay, cool, but have somebody else talk about it then. Go get Snowbike Mike to go talk about it. Go get Gary Whitta to talk about it. Or
I would have really loved to hear
Paris,
from Gary Whitta,
right?
Gary Whitta, the three of them.
They're go get amazing. Anybody else.
Yeah,
you have a ton of people there, right? Go get somebody else to talk about it. You can't not cover it. It's not really a thing where you can say, hey, the biggest news story for Sony for a while, right, is going to be ignored because you don't like the fact that it was Insomniac. Look, when the FTC disclosures happened, did you not cover it? Did you say, oh yeah, we shouldn't talk about that? That was a mistake. No, of course not. The information came out. We all covered it. It is what it is. It's the way it is, right? You have to take the probative value. Now, if it's personal information, obviously, put that aside. Don't talk about it. Don't bring that up. Obviously, don't disseminate personal information. Fair enough. But when it comes to company status, what they're saying about the acquisition on the other side, how they're planning to do things, how do you not talk about it? You got to talk about it. What else are you doing here, right? That's the whole point of this. So I don't know. And I don't know what, Jaffe said. I'm sure that's probably the gist of it too. And I would be on his side with that. I just come on, there's no way to not talk about this. It's too big. When those images of GTA 6 leaked, when we got information that they got hacked, right? They got that information out there. Well, do we not talk about it? Of course we talked about it. What are you talking about? Of course we talk about it. It's the biggest game ever. Come on. Right? Of course we're going to talk about it. This is just not really now I know it's supporting a bad thing. We don't want hacks to happen. I agree.
Of course not. Of course not. Absolutely.
It sucks. But the information's there. Now you got to just deal with it, right? So I don't know that I would go so far that to not talk about it the way he wanted to. I would just say, hey, I'm going to abstain because I can't really get myself out of it. So I'll just have another segment, right? And that segment will be hosted by somebody else on my team, and they'll go over that stuff, something like that, right? At least it takes him off the hook, but doesn't take his kind of funny off the hook. They still would cover it, right? So I don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas for him, but I get that he feels away. Fair enough. But as kind of funny, you need to cover it. There's just nowhere around it. This is way too big to not cover, right? Just the roadmap alone. it's something you just got to cover. Like you're saying, what? There's a Wolverine, there's a Venom game, there's a X-Men game, there's like, dude, are you just telling me you're not going to cover that? There's a Ratchet and Clank. Well, hold on, you're not going to cover that? Well, what do you mean you're not going to cover that? Don't you cover games? Like you have to cover that. So
I commend Greg for stepping in the way and being the head man for taking the brunt of all this. But it was a kind of funny decision.
Yeah.
It was all of them.
Yeah, and that part of it is that Greg kind of made this, right?
Yeah.
Colin and him kind of spearheaded this thing, and he might think of it as like, hey, I can do whatever I want. Cool. But now you are running an organization.
Yes.
And you are representing the rest of the crew as well.
100%.
And I don't know if all of them would agree that, hey, we have to shut up about this. Like, dude, I want to talk about this. Like, as a Venom game, I want to talk about that. Like, what?
Yeah. Well, we just talked about Suicide Squad yesterday. Why can't we talk about this?
Yes.
Like,
I do want to kind of just say this, and again, this is my hot take. Now, remember, I'm coming at this from an angle that not only am I the showrunner, again, this is a mom and pop organization. Double Barrel Gaming consists of two people. And Mrs. Boom does a podcast. She does the financials. She sets up the giveaways and stuff. She does a lot of behind the scenes stuff. I come out here every day, and I feel an unbelievable sense of responsibility to delivering news, whether it be good, bad, or otherwise. We don't pile on here, right? We don't do that. We don't hate monger here, right? We're having this discussion that we're having on Primetime Gaming this evening, I think, is a valid conversation. And I want to, once we get to the rest of the panel, I want to then rewind this back, and I want to say the question that needs to be answered is, what the hell is going on at Sony that this continues to happen? Because I did have somebody actually, reach out to me on the socials, like, hey, Boom, I work in cybersecurity, and it's you can't get every threat. I absolutely understand that.
Yep.
And I'm not suggesting that there is some sort of a blanket you can throw over the world and everyone's safe. That's not the way. You're not going to cover the world in armor as Tony Stark would want to do. But this is not the first time this has happened to Sony, and it continues to happen. And I think what it ultimately really did is expect their stock to take a massive hit if it hasn't already, because they're in their own documentation afraid of Microsoft. They put on this big show about, like this, Teflon Don, nothing sticks to me. That's not, in fact, the case, folks. They are in a pickle, and they don't have an answer. And that is why SIE and PlayStation are being run by Hiroki Totogi, and he is going to be in that position till at least April of next year, because they don't have a direction. And again, this is more salt on the wound, right? We learned that Jim Ryan has sold all of his shares in PlayStation, folks. That was confirmed. He sold that on the 15th. That is available for you to check out. People send it to me left, right, and center. He sold all of his shares. What is happening? He has no confidence in the brand, right? Something's going on, but
yeah, that is pretty crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of questions to be asked here, and there's no answers because Sony's not talking. But according to some people in the gaming media, well, 2027 is the end of days for Xbox, and they'll go third party. I'm just saying. Let's bring in the Wandering Dutch. Dutch, what is your pointed opinion about how this was handled specifically by Greg Miller and Kind of Funny?
Wasn't handled well, I don't think. I think it's just picking and choosing who they report on. When it's their friends at Sony, it's fine. I'm just pointing it out. When it's their friends at Sony, it's absolutely fine. When it's anybody else, and I don't mean Xbox, I mean in general, they were like, oh well, yeah, but it's lots of people's details have been leaked. Yeah, but there was the Rockstar, all the personal information of all the Rockstar employees was leaked, and you still reported on that.
As a matter of fact, if I have the clip, I don't want to play it because I'm not looking to pile on, but he was laughing at the
Yeah. Not only was that was the most recent one, but originally, like, if you have a look at like the most recent leaks, which happened only a matter of days ago, where they unfortunately a couple of hours worth of GTA 6 footage was released. But even the first leakage of GTA 6, when they hunted down the kid in the UK that had leaked it, but that kid was originally threatening to release all of the footage plus all of the personal information of staff, etc. So that was ransom again at the time, but they laughed at all of that stuff. They made jokes about Rockstar's going to hunt you down. Ha ha ha. Yeah, it's still not funny though, because the staff was still at threat. The information had still or could still be leaked or was leaked because we saw that online.
Yep.
And this is happening. They seem to think that the leaked information, the only information we see of the leaks are just the game files. Hackers never just target only game files. Hackers target everything that is there.
Yep.
So every time there is a major leak, you can absolutely guarantee these people that have hacked in to get these files have every bit of information available to them, and they just take it all. They pick and choose as to what to get. If they get caught, the information they haven't released is otherwise seized or destroyed by the authorities that have caught them. If they don't, in this case, this hackware or ransom group that have seized this opportunity, obviously haven't been caught as it stands. They decided not to pay the $2 million fee to the hack group in order to ensure that the personal details weren't leaked. And here we are. But you can't pick and choose which one is more feasible to report on than the other. If you've reported on one, you have to report on the other. You can't just choose, oh, well, yeah, it's only Capcom, so we won't report on. We'll report on that and laugh about it and joke about it. That was personal information as well as game info. And then you're talking about, again, Take-Two Interactive the first time around with the GTA 6 leaks, and then the second time around with the GTA 6 leaks. And then you're talking about even just the day before this, like you mentioned, Suicide Squad and the leaks of the story leaks and everything like that. There's like, oh yeah, but personal information on this. Well, no, the developers are still working really hard to make these games. And by talking about this leaked info and sharing the information that they've been trying to hide and keep secret from you in order to have a big reveal, they're still damaging the developers in any way, shape, or form. Indeed. That's their hard work that's being wasted because you just want your 2 pence talking about it. Like, the thing is we discuss these things on our channels. We discuss them, but we don't show any of this leaked information. I never show the leaked footage. I never show leaked screenshots. I discuss, okay, what did you think about it? Oh, look, X, Y, and Z. We'll talk about what we saw, but we will never show it. The difference is a lot of these media people will just go, yeah, this is the leaked information, and this is where it was from, and this is where you can find it, and we never do that. That's the difference between us reporting about this stuff and those reporting about that stuff. They show you the direct thing, and that's the difference. They aren't and weren't prepared, A, to cover it, but also B, to cover it in the manner that they do with every other leak, which is, this is where it was found. You can find it on Reset Error. This is all the files, etc. Because the only thing that you could find about this leak was, this is everything. And I know a number of people that have got the entire portfolio of the leaked info on their hard drives right now because it's available.
Yeah.
Or at least it was available until it was pulled down. And that's the one thing they didn't want to do, is go, oh yeah, we can do this and we have all the leaked info, because they didn't want to be in possession of it or discuss it in the manner that they have every other time. Because that's what they've done every other time. Okay, this is where you can find it. This is where on Reset Error, and this is the thing. And then people can just go straight to it, find it, and do it. It's just, again, it's picking and choosing, and you can't be seen to do that. If you are what is meant to be non-biased media, regardless of who your friends in there, you discuss the topic, and you just find a way of discussing that in a mature way. You don't skirt around it and say, no, we won't discuss it because it's people's livelihoods at risk. The livelihoods are at risk regardless of whether or not you discuss it. Your job as media is to discuss the good and the bad of it. The good, we saw Wolverine. It looked cool. It's early iterations. We want to see X, Y, and Z. The bad, loads of personal information was leaked. Like, we condemn that X, Y, and Z. Fine, but discuss it in a real, mature manner.
Yeah.
Not just shirk it off, because it just makes you look like an idiot. And that's ultimately what happened.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like I said, he lost a lot of fanfare yesterday for sure. And it's again, there are conversations to be had. you can talk about these leaks without showing footage, which none of us did. None of us would. There are conversations to be had about to ask why this continues to happen at Sony. Greg, who is friends with people at Sony, I know that you got to protect your brand and everything, but you should be asking these questions.
You've got a big enough platform to stand there and say, Sony, you need to severely invest in security.
Indeed.
It continues to happen. And it's not just, we're talking about games, but we go all the way back to the serious data breaches of Sony accounts back on PlayStation 4 when massive, remember with that huge data leak where hundreds of thousands and thousands of accounts had all of their personal and credit card information leaked?
Yes. Yep.
I know many people that had their credit card information stolen and loads of money spent on their cards because of the Sony leak. And it's constant. That's just why I don't attach cards to PS, because I can't trust their security. Their security systems are terrible. And it always has been. Like, two-factor authentication means absolutely nothing to a hacker. It means nothing. That's piddly. You need advanced security when you're talking about a multi-billion-dollar organization with that many users on board. That's why Microsoft just don't get hacked. They just don't. They are top of security. They work with governments. You have to have high-level security at all times. And Sony, as a big conglomerate like that, needs to up their security game. That's what Greg should be pointing out when he's covering these leaks. Is Sony, what are you doing with security? Sort it out. Like, this is a constant thing. But that's what he's not using his platform for. When you've got a big enough user base and a big enough platform, you have to be calling out these things so you get change. And we don't, like our little voices, my 2,500 sub channel isn't going to get these changes from these big ones. I know people at Xbox. I know a couple of indie devs and some publishers and things like that, but I'm not the person that's going to get this change. I'm just a little voice in this tiny cog. But these bigger channels, these kind of funnies with their millions of listeners and views and things like that, they're the guys that the industry listens to. They're the ones that the voices of people that the big execs start paying attention to. So they need to. That's what needs to happen. These guys need to speak up.
I absolutely agree. Listen, let's bring in Kay Asante. Kay, before I get to you, brother, we got almost 800 people here. I got to once again ask, we are 94 subs away from 14K. 94, folks. Can we do it live on the air? It's unlikely. But most people, but you just never know, right? The Christmas miracle, right? So let me catch up on the super chats. Quite a few of them here. Hargi Chani on the panel, folks. He donates $5, but he also has dropped a code, a worldwide global code for Spider-Man and Miles Morales. And he says in support of Insomniac games. And you know something? Thank you, Hargeet, for the generosity, brother. And yes, I platinum Spider-Man 2018. I'm one trophy away from platinum Miles Morales. There's one that's you got to get like 250 hit combo or something like that. I can't do it. And Spider-Man 2, I don't know if I'm going to platinum, but I'm going to try. I'm quite enjoying it. I love Insomniac. I love Ted Price. I love the team over there. I am so excited for the fact that we're getting a Wolverine game. We're getting an X-Men game. We're getting a Venom game. Again, smaller, sure. It's going to be reused assets. I get it. But it is, again, if you are a nerd like me and you appreciate Marvel, what they're going to tell is this particular story is the Lethal Protector. That's a pretty dope timeline for and again, it's not, no spoilers, it's not the same Venom, but I'm interested to see where they take that story. We have I Love Coffee, and I love coffee as well, brother. 2 cups a day guaranteed. He drops, folks, a $10 super chat and says, game dev here. I work at Xbox and just want to say I love the show. Brother, that is very kind of you. And I know that you hit me up in the DMs, man. I got to try and find you. I found on I Love Coffee, but I don't think it's you. Who was it over here? What did I found? Let's see, Brazilian Made. I don't know if that's you, but that doesn't sound like I Love Coffee. So I'm not clicking on that one. I don't know what that's all about, but definitely DM me.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just saying what it says on Twitter, on X. I don't know what that's about, so I'm not clicking on that.
I don't think that's the same thing.
I just don't think it's the same person. He drops another additional $5 super chat and says, Boomstick, I sent you a request on Twitter today. Maybe I can come on the show one day and talk from an industry side. Absolutely. You're welcome. I'll give you the key. You come right through the front door. We'll definitely get that sorted out. But thanks so much for the generosity. He also has become a channel member, which is pretty dope. So thank you so much for the generosity. RC Polygons drops an additional $10 super chat and says, this is my own opinion. Greg and Kinda Funny team has lost all journalistic credibility for me. And everything that they say from now on are null and void. Greg has shown they are shills for PlayStation. Yeah, he did. They took a hit yesterday. They took a major hit. Juan in the chat, generous friend of the program, who has not only dropped super chats. Well, folks, he drops a $50 super chat, which is complete madness. And he says this: it is okay to be biased, but don't pretend to be neutral or fair when that was not your standard in the past. It is fine, in all capitals, to protect your friends at Insomniac, but don't use an ethics excuse when that didn't matter before the other leaks. And this is what I want to get into with Kay Asante. Now, I've heard this from several people. This is a very interesting way of looking at this. I heard the term situational gaming news reporting. And that is exactly what transpired with Greg Miller, Blessing, and Kinda Funny. It's okay. And Greg was on. I have the clips. Greg was laughing, and he has a very boisterous laugh about the GTA 6 leaks. He made no qualms about making fun of it and poking fun at it and laughing live on camera. And then he takes this, I'm gonna hold my hands together, strong stance. We're not going to talk about it. A lot of people called him hypocritical. People are still calling him a hypocrite. I want to get your hot take on this, Kay.
So honestly, and I too am a fan of Kinda Funny. I've been following them since the early days. The Up at Noon days. That whole situation. I follow them. I rooted for them. They've done a lot with a little, right? Which is to be commended. I think it's awesome what they've
all
built.
hard work has paid off.
Yeah, absolutely. So so hats off to them. I always say it to many others, and they deserve it as well. Shoulders of giants. It's amazing that what they've accomplished. That said, he's always been, Greg specifically, has always been, as I have seen him, as a show that a personality that I have watched, he's always seemingly been not really a journalist that, per se, but a person that likes games, that talks about games, that you can go to listen to talk about games, right? And his notoriety and the amount of viewers that they've garnered and the amount of follows they've garnered has kind of pushed this responsibility onto them, which they have frankly never earned or deserved. He's always been this way. He's always had Kinda Funny best friends. It's literally in the name. Right? He's never made it shy about his leanings, right? Or how really hard his pendulum swings one way or the other, right? You hear it all the time. When he roasts PC people, I grind my teeth and y'all make fun.
He's literally just released another skit about PC players as well, by the way.
Exactly. There you go, right? So honestly, at some point when I realized that he is, and forgive me for saying it in this fashion, you'll usually not catch me be so direct and slanderous in this way, but I came to the realization that he is Colin Moriarty, but on the flip of the coin, and they do exactly the same thing, only Colin is more direct about it, and Greg does it with the ha-ha wink and the smile, and that's the devil you don't know versus the devil you do, and I just stopped following his stuff, and that's just frankly how I felt about it. So when I saw this, I wasn't surprised or shocked in the least. Yeah. He's very much a you do me favors, I do you favors kind of guy. That is not like people remember him from IGN, but IGN gave him that sense of journalistic integrity. And even them, look at them now. Let's talk about journalistic integrity at IGN, right?
Yeah.
So even that veil has fallen, right? So my question always turns to us inward and go, why did we give them so much strength in the first place? Like, why are we expecting so much journalistic integrity from these places? Even the fundamental organizations that we expect that from isn't providing that. And these guys are never that. They weren't that. They got away from that. They ran away from that, right? Only to then realize that that was also not really didn't really have the bedrock of integrity in it either, right? But I guess what I'm trying to say is, we as a community may need to start looking inward at our quote unquote heroes and realizing that, when Dreamcast guy says something salacious, you just go, aha, that's Dreamcast guy, and you move on. Maybe that's what Kind of Funny needs to be regulated to, because they should not be the journalistic integrity bedrock that you seek when you're looking for hard hitting news. If that's what you're looking for, then our barometer is broken and we need to recalibrate. Like, we need to fix that, because they shouldn't be where we go to when we're looking for hard hitting real journalism, right? There might be a gap there. I don't know, depending on who you follow more, but I wouldn't go there first. You go there for skits and entertainment, right? And the fact that he's saying that he won't talk about this specific situation is really, really no surprise to me, because what's the first thing you hear when you hear about Insomniac Games? You see, him with a Spider-Man mask on and his bare chest out, and they made it and put it in the game. They even put it in the game in round 2. So, I don't know, if I have criticism, like real hard-hitted criticism to give them, it would be, as you guys have already levied, right? You can recuse yourself. Hey, I have friends there. I got to be honest. I'm totally biased. I'll be the first to tell you, right? Like, it happens. You've seen that happen with us on these stages. Something will happen. He's not here, but I will slander him in his stead. Some news story will happen about Sega, and Everborn will slather you with ridiculous hyperbole, and he'll tell you I'm biased because he's all in, and he'll tell you that. Just tell the people, hey, these are my friends. I care about them. I can't talk about them, but you know what? We're a news organization, so I'll peace out and let these guys continue. That's it. Problem solved, right? But this tells you that it's not a news organization. It never was. It's a boys and girls club, fun time place that he has cultivated, which is fun. But you, dear public, should not expect so much integrity from them, because that's not the place.
Voting in Game Awards then.
Oh, but come on. I would say exactly the same thing about the Game Awards, sir. You see how this thing is stitching?
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
So I would say the exact same thing about the Game Awards itself, right? The Game Awards itself allows for these organizations that have no bedrock and integrity to participate. So what does that say about them as an organization? Hey, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, it's I think to counterpoint that just a little bit.
Please.
When people came on to Kind of Funny Games that day,
Mm-hmm.
Kind of Funny knew that the people were going to watch them to see what they said about the leaks.
Yep.
Right? So they knew that their audience was expecting news from them, because they have done it in the past. Right? So, and then you give for Greg to come out there, which I commend him for being the front face of that hit. He comes out there and gives a specific reason, serious reason, as to why they're not covering that news. Right? Which gives this facade of, we are a serious organization. These are our journalistic measures. And
these are our terms, why we decide to draw the line.
Yes,
we
draw the line here. Right?
Yes.
So,
yes.
I mean, if what you say is true, because it is true, they do skits, they do funny stuff, and yes, he makes no he knows he's a Spider-Man guy, he's a PlayStation guy. We all know that, right?
Right.
But instead of coming out with a very serious tone, he could have like, look, I like Spider-Man, I like Insomniac, I'm not talking about it, and then move on. And his audience probably would have laughed. But instead, he goes out there with this very journalistic approach and draws the line in the sand of what he'll talk about.
Yeah.
That's what I had to say. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, man. Honestly, I think he tries, right? I won't say he's being malicious with it. I'm not saying that, right? And that's actually why I liked a lot of his stuff, and that's why I watch and follow a lot of his stuff, because you can tell he passionately cares about the subject matter at hand, and that's great and that's commendable, and he wants that to be what is cultivated on his channel and in his platform, and that's awesome, right? But when these situations present themselves and there are difficult decisions to be made, and you respond as a person rather than an organization, there's the biggest red flag there, right? There's so much responsibility thrust upon you because of your reach and because of your notoriety and because of all of that. That doesn't automatically turn you into a journalistic organization with tenets that can be followed and can be tracked and can be vetted and all of that. No, right? They can go out and say and do whatever they want, and their public will or will not go along with it. That's just the world we live in today, right? Those gatekeeper walls have been broken, and as such, anybody can jump in, right? And some people jump in with false credentials, right? But all I'm saying is we all need to do a better job of calibrating our sources, right? In the parlance of the news in America, I'd say, when you're watching your CNNs and you're watching your MSNBCs and your Fox News, is add BBC into the mix. Diversify your news sources, right? Yeah. You need to do the same in your gaming sources, because if you follow just one too solely, sometimes they kind of start feeding you their propaganda / agenda /
their
skewed view of things.
Opinions, if you will.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's mostly due to advertisement dollars. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
That definitely drives, and we can see it with IGN and Kotaku, and like how much Sony probably advertises on those platforms. So I want that money to come in. So I'm not really going to talk bad about them.
And let me be clear. I'm not giving them a pass, because I see some people coming for me. I see you, J-Mo Money, in the chat, and he is absolutely right. With great power comes great responsibility. I see what you did there, sir.
There you go, Spider-Man.
Salute to you.
Uncle Ben.
You are absolutely right, right? And because of that, when we see these bedrocks, these cracks in the wall, right? We feel it just in our nature to speak on it, because we want our stuff to be beyond reproach. We want our journalists, our gaming journalists, to be that beacon on a hill that everybody can follow and not necessarily have anything to say about, right? That's just not where we are, right? I'm not saying we should just move along, because as Hargeet says, engage, and I agree with that, right? Yeah. But don't get your heart broken every time you see your hero turn into a villain, because that's just going to happen over and over and over until this thing is fixed. Right, but don't get disheartened. We have to
continue the conversation, though. I think that when you let off the gas and you let them just run rampant without question, that's where they get. This is where you're asking, why are we giving them so much power? Well, we shouldn't. Yeah. We should step up. We should. And again, you don't have to be insulting. You don't have to fling poo, if you will, to get your point across. You could logistically have a pointed opinion, even a strong, bold, stout opinion, if you will, about a specific topic, and you don't have to be rude or disengaging to have that conversation. I think that is why we're having this conversation today, because it is a conversation that Greg Miller and Kind of Funny did not want to have. And I thought that with the kind of political clout that they have within the industry as well as the community, I'm sorry, Greg and Kind of Funny, you have a responsibility to take this kind of situation by the horns. And you don't have to be, again, I think the best way it was said is Wandering Dutch made mention of it. We as podcasters didn't show any of the footage, right? We weren't slapping slides up for you to see. We were reading some of the slides that were out there on the socials. And of course, that's news, and your audience is going to want to hear it. So it's just one of those situations. But look, let me catch up on the super chats, and then we're gonna roll into, well, what happens next for Sony, because this can't continue to happen. Obviously, this hack is not the first hack to happen. It continues to happen. I think it was Post Up? I think it was Post Up. He put a picture or a GIF of a Cheeto holding a door closed. And that's kind of what the security is for PlayStation at this point, because they just, this is crazy. This cannot continue to happen. So let me just first of all, Highlander 001, once again, and the generosity, brother, is crazy. He has donated another 5 Double Barrel Gaming memberships. Really, that's incredibly generous of you, brother. Thank you so much for that. We have Sith Lord. Welcome back, brother. He was hanging out with his family. He's back here. He drops a $2 super chat and says, "Hey guys, great panel. Happy holidays, and happy holidays to you and yours as well." J-Rock, leader of Gremlin Nation, drops an additional $5 super chat and says, "Begs the question, what else would or wouldn't they do for a studio they love?" Interesting thought and theory. OCD Gamer, who's been a channel member for 2 months, says, "Let's get Boom to 14K. From your mouth to the gaming god's ears. Let's get there." We also have DeAndre Banks, generous friend of the program, drops an outstanding $2 super chat and says, "PlayStation doesn't have a clear path going forward." No, they do not. We also have Spartan661, who drops an additional generous $5 super chat and says, "These PlayStation leaks are ridiculous. If the ponies think Xbox is going to go third party, then you are delusional. Buy an Xbox while it's on sale this holiday." We also have a new channel member, Cheap Skink. Thank you so much for becoming a channel member. Love the name, brother. I don't know what it means, but it made me laugh. So it's if it's there for comedy, you're doing it right, brother. So thank you so much for becoming a channel member. And obviously, you're going to be in the drawing on Friday, folks. That's right, folks. Don't forget, circle the calendar, because we are giving away $1,500 worth of prizes this Friday on the 6th annual Christmas with Mr. and Mrs. Boomstick. The first 6 prizes are going to go to channel members. The next 6 are going to be anyone in the chat. And I have a hashtag. It's under lock and key. No one knows what it is. You put that into the chat and you get automatically entered. 10 $100 gift cards are going to be to your platform of choice: Steam, PlayStation, Xbox, or Nintendo eShop. And there are 2 grand prize winners. And that comes the way of Mrs. Boom. She wanted to do something bigger and more bombastic this year. Last year, we gave $1,000 away. She came to me and she says, "Can we do better? It's a tough year for a lot of people." I said, "Absolutely, we can do better." And we pulled out another $500. So two people in the chat. One is a channel member and one will be in the chat. We're going to walk away, folks, with a $250 gift card, one each, for a grand prize total of $1,500, the most we've ever given away at any time, at any point in the channel in 6 years. And we're doing it, well, because we love you and we appreciate all the support, and obviously through the channel memberships and of course the super chats, we fund this. We took all that money away and we do these big giveaways, and of course this Friday is the biggest one we've ever done. We also have Angry Hippie. Welcome back, brother. Nice to see you in the chat. He drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "Did major news outlets refuse to report on the Snowden leaks? No, they reported the news. Video games are not above treason." I mean, that's a very strong point, and they're not. And everyone should have reported on this because it is news. And if you have, like I said, it's Kind of Funny's big, man. They're just a big conglomerate. And to suggest that you're not is kind of being disingenuous. I'm sorry, it just is. Juan has become a channel member. Thank you so much for that. And he has also gifted 5 Double Barrel Gaming subscription. If you won one, please thank Juan in the chat, brother. Thank you for the generosity. And our good brother, Sir X-Men, drops an out $2 super chat and says Sony needs a government bailout. I'm not wrong. They may need a Microsoft bailout, kind of like they did with Apple all those years ago. I don't know.
They need watchdog oversight about all those leaks that keep happening.
So real quick, we only have about 15 minutes left of the show. And folks, again, please hang out because this is an important conversation we're going to have. And I'll start first, the Black Viking. What does Sony do now? Like, what do they change? How do they fix this? Well, because these leaks are this is happening more times than not.
Yeah, they have to have a very serious approach when it comes to cybersecurity. But they've been dealing with this for the past few years. I don't know what it is about their online. I mean, they can't even get games to work online most of the time. So, like, I don't know what's going on or what kind of talent that they're bringing in. And it may have something to do with, like, whenever we talk about Microsoft has operating systems, they have cloud that they ship to customers, so their security has to be top notch. They work with governments, they work with huge conglomerates, so their security for other customers to purchase their services, their security has to be top notch, right? And Sony, by the way, really doesn't have anything in that fashion to incentivize them to, aside from their employees or customers stuff getting hacked. Aside from that, they don't have anything to sell when it comes to security. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm interested to see what you guys have to think about that. But if they have the funds to invest in security, then they should do that. But if they know that they're not going to make any money off of it, they probably won't.
I was gonna add to that. Ultimately, if they'll end up losing money if they don't invest in it anyway.
Yeah, so, for sure.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I understand. This is gaming is a business. They're not there to lose money for their investors. They're there to make them lots of money. I totally get that. But again, when you listen, there's been a lot of leaks, folks. Capcom had a leak. GTA 6, one of the biggest leaks this year outside of what just happened with Insomniac. There's no doubt. Leaks happen. But these companies very rarely get hacked. Like, that was the first time I heard Capcom, at least I have heard of it. If they've gotten hacked before, I didn't know about it. It didn't make world news. The Ubisoft hack made news. We found out about some of the games that they're working on. The GTA one is still a bit of a conundrum. I can't believe that actually happened, but it did. It happened. This one, though, hurts Sony in a multitude of ways that they cannot allow this to happen again, because roadmaps were put out there. Personal slides of, they put on this big bully, big man on campus persona out in the gaming media. They're known as the bullies of the industry. I've called them that. They know that they are, right? That's why they command so much of games being on their platform and nowhere else, or games playing best on their platform and not on Xbox. That's a fact, because they're the market leaders. But behind the scenes, we learned that they're afraid. They're afraid of Xbox. They're afraid of ABK. They're afraid of Xbox Game Pass. And they know the change is coming. They actually said it in their own documents. They, quote unquote, Microsoft is in a position to leapfrog us. That was their words, not mine. So my question to you, Hargeet, is how do they fix this?
Now, look, hacks happen. Ransomware attacks happen. I don't think there's a perfect answer to this. But in general, your InfoSec team is supposed to handle these kind of things. They're supposed to. Now, I don't know how they're structured, because these are subsidiaries. They're separate studios. They might have their own IT, but ultimately, security should be an overall Sony thing, and they should just try to cover it as much as they can. It is a challenging thing, and I get that. But yeah, they need to have some campaign to try to fix this, right? Most companies run through this. Like, ransomware attacks are rampant. It's all over the place. So I'm not going to say that hey, this is just a Sony specific thing, and they need to, like, a lot of companies get hacked. It sucks.
Yeah, it does. It's bad. It's bad for everybody. It really is.
For a large company of their size, they do need to spend a bit more to fix this. The bigger headache they have is not just the fact that they get hacked, it's personal information. There are countries out there, especially EU, that will fine you a lot of money if you don't protect personal information. So they really do have to at least show that they're doing their best effort. But if like personal information gets out, the EU can fine you a lot, right? It's not
GDPR.
Yeah, it's not unsubstantial. It's not a good idea for them to not try to do this. It's a lot of money because it's based on revenue. It's not based on profits. They will just charge you, and they make a lot of money. So even though they don't make Microsoft money, they make a lot of money, and so they don't want to get charged those heavy fines, right? So they do have to do a best effort here. Personal information was a part of this hack, right? So it's just stuff that they have to worry about. I mean, I'm not going to pile on them. They have to fix it. It's something that's just a pain, but I know they're not going to get 100%. That's just not going to happen. The industry deals with this all the time. Almost every company has been hacked. That's just the way it is. And so, again, I don't know what they can specifically do there. However, the big news that you gave at the beginning of this, where they're starting to fire people, the financials are a problem.
Yep.
Look, I don't know if they're listening, but Sony, for the love of God, if you're not willing to take on the risk of putting your games into a subscription service, Microsoft is. You're putting these games on PC. For the love of God, put these games into Game Pass PC and let Microsoft take the goddamn risk. Why are you not just taking that avenue? Take the bag and solidify your freaking portfolio. Like, do anything. Like, what you're doing now sucks. You're firing people from your studios. Just look at where you are. If you're not willing to take the risk, Microsoft is spending $1 billion a year on third parties. Take the goddamn money. Take the goddamn games, put them in PC Game Pass. What do you have to lose? Just do it. You're putting it on PC anyway. What are you losing? You're not putting it on their console, right? Take the goddamn money. Like, just do anything different than what you're doing now. Like, it's just not working. And you have a perfect model to look at. Your competitors making twice your profit now with ABK. Yeah. Just look at what they're doing. It's not difficult. If you don't want to take the risk, let them take the risk. I'm sure. Look, they take freaking MLB The Show and put it in PC Game Pass and have more engagement and more sales on the Xbox for your freaking first-party game. Take the model. Just do it. Take God of War 2018, put it in the freaking Game Pass. What do you got to lose? What are you going to get, 20, 30, 40 million dollars?
I'll have the achievements.
Just just take the money. Seriously.
At bare minimum, Hargy, they should just they can build their own client on PC and put their games there, even if they just sell them. You know what I mean?
They could do that too, but look, instead of firing 75 people from Insomniac, can you just take Miles Morales and Spider-Man and put it in Game Pass? Would that give you enough money to keep those people?
Could you just do that? If you wanted to just take Spider-Man 2018, look, I'm gonna tell you this right now. I'll say this live on the air, folks. If it was in Game Pass, obviously I'm gonna play it, right? I don't have to buy it. But if they just sold it, I'd buy it again. I'd buy it again to play through it again for the achievements. I chase pigeon farts all over again. No problem. It's fine. Because
and that's fair too, right? Because you would get Xbox achievements on PC, right? You just want, hey, you want to get the Xbox achievements? Fine, fair enough.
Yeah.
Right? Sell it in the Microsoft store. But look, I'm just throwing things out there, Sony. Like, if you have any interest in trying to do something, call Phil. Freaking put these games in Game Pass PC. You're not putting it on their console. You're just taking a bag for a platform you already have your game on. Just take the goddamn money.
Yep.
Make your studios whole.
They think they're Nintendo. You know what I mean? Like,
which they're not. Yeah, Nintendo's going to sell 20 million copies of a game at like the beginning. Like, they're just crazy. Nintendo's awesome, but like,
yeah.
We've said this before. If you look, and of course I go right to your point, Black Viking. Nintendo they are an anomaly when it comes to their first party. They have probably the highest margin on any platform 1-to-1. Now, is it 90? No, it's not 90%. I don't think anyone has that. They did have 110% when Breath of the Wild came out, because more copies were sold of Breath of the Wild in the console, which is bananas to me. But that's Nintendo for you. But if you look at how many the like, for instance, Mario Wonder. Okay, I know it's not me. A lot of people's games. I watched my nephew destroy that game. He literally beat it in front of me, and I'm like, this kid is ridiculously good. That game's a freaking amazing, man. And I know it's Mario, same thing. 30th. Play it. It is not the same thing as other games. It
A lot
is
of fun.
magnificent. It is
Yeah.
so good. It doesn't have any right to be that good. Somehow it is. But let me bring in Wandering Dutch. Dutch, how because Black Viking had a great point. Hargeet, even better point. With the just put Spider-Man, take the bag on Xbox Game Pass PC. Don't even sell it on the console. And if they did, just for shits and giggles, they would make millions. Because guess what? A lot of people would go out and buy these games even though they have them on PlayStation. I don't know how many times I've double dipped on like Resident Evil. I bought it for the Xbox, found it on sale for the PlayStation, or vice versa, and played it there and enjoyed it just as much. I would double dip or even triple dip. I bought Spider-Man 2018 in the Miles Morales package just so I can run through it again to get the trophies. I never wound up doing it because my backlog, but I can do it if I want. What do they do, Dutch, so this doesn't happen again?
So, well, first of all, security-wise, they just need to invest more. They need to invest more in their security. I understand what Black Viking's saying; like they've got no incentive to do that. But their ultimate incentive, as Hargeets pointed out, is ultimately GDPR. It is General Data Protection Reform that was put into play worldwide, essentially by the authorities to ensure that data breaches do not happen. If they do happen, you get fined significantly. So it essentially incentivized companies to ensure that data was protected at all times. That's both internal and external. So GDPR doesn't just cover your customers, it covers your staff. And every bit of information internally that is handled. Now, in my role, I have to do this training at least once a year, go through GDPR, any updates, and then go through it, X, Y, Z. And it is actually a lot more complex than what people think when it comes to GDPR. Like if you even glance at somebody's information, you are now responsible for that person's information. Like it is not just like it makes no difference if that has passed through you, even if you just went, yeah, there you go. You are now part of that cog. If that does not get to its end point and that is not protected at the end point, you are partly responsible for what happens to that data. So it has to be secure. Sony have to do a better job at securing information in general. I'm not just talking about game leaks because that can be something entirely. But when we're talking specifically down to personal information, whether that be customer end or their own staff, that is a whole nother ball game because personal information of staff and any of their details is a HR breach, which means they've got into the HR system, somehow got into the HR files, HR system, got all of the staff information there, all of their personal information, which wouldn't otherwise be tied directly to game development, and got into that and leaked that as well. So that's another issue. Whatever kind of supplier they're working with in order to have their HR system up and running, like in the UK.
Dutch, it might not be that. There are people who are so bad at this that they'll need a report. They'll generate the report from the HR system and store it in a file share and not realize they're putting personal information there.
Yes.
And it might be accessible to anybody. This is usually the problem. And that's what you need to train people. It's like, yo, if you're going to make a report like that, you need to lock it and then delete it the second you're done with it because you can't leave that information available. That's why you have your HR system.
That's what GDPR is there for, exactly. That's exactly what it's there for. It cannot be just, I'll just create this and put it elsewhere, because then you are directly at fault, and that individual that's at fault can be fined as well as the company. And we're talking millions, So that individual could equally be fined millions as well as the company for data breaches if they are responsible. So both in-house and Sony as a whole, they need to shore up immediately. But ultimately, they just need to heavily invest in that. They need to heavily invest in educating their staff internally about the way data is managed and secured. On a financial perspective and how to shore up shop there, Hoggy, it's one good point. Put it into Game Pass PC and grab a bag there. If you are this is the ultimate issue we spoke about at the beginning of the show. If you're creating wholly single-player games that have no multiplayer component and no financial aspect after initial sale, then the only way to make more money out of that game is to put it on multiple platforms.
Yep.
Unless you go through the Ubisoft approach. And that's one thing a lot of gamers don't like, but at the same time isn't a benefit, a distractor, isn't a distractor away from. It's not a pay to win. It's not doing X, Y, and Z. But if you're going to release
cosmetics,
cosmetics or fancy weapon skins or anything like that, even for single player games, Ubisoft have done it. Look at Avatar. You wouldn't think it, but you go to the Avatar menu and it's like, look at this Ikran with its fancy new coloured skin and its awesome armor. Do you want this, or do you want to just earn the random stuff you find in game? Yeah, I'll bag that. Why not? Go for it. Like it's stuff that's completely optional. You can put it in there. It's an additional monetary. It doesn't have to be multiplayer. These are things that Sony need to be thinking of. Yeah, we don't want to do this to the consumer. Like we give away 50 skins in Spider-Man last time. It doesn't cost a penny to anybody. Why? Why didn't it cost a penny? It shouldn't be us saying this to them, but as a business side of thing, not a consumer. Consumers don't want to hear that. But as a business aspect, you need to be thinking, right, we've got 25 skins out of stock. We can possibly do 10 that aren't stock, and you can buy these 10 skins. These are fancy skins that you can't get anywhere else. Do you want to buy these skins? We can do special holiday skins. We'll put them when the holidays out. We can do all stupid things that you should be thinking of in this modern era where you make monetary transactions after the fact. You wouldn't believe how many people buy stupid skins just because it makes them look a little bit different in a game. Somebody else hasn't got it. Just for the sake of it. It's cosmetics. It's not gambling. You know what you're buying. I want this.
Yeah.
You see Fortnite does it? You can play Fortnite from start to finish without buying a battle pass, doing anything. You can play it every day without buying anything on Fortnite. But how does Fortnite make money? Skins. Skins and battle passes for skins. And the battle passes just get you more skins. It doesn't get you anything else. You're not getting anything other than skins. But people keep buying it because they want to look different. They want the newest skin. Sony need to be thinking about these things. You don't have to have a game that has no additional monetary benefits to it from a business perspective. From a consumer perspective, everybody can argue till the cows come home whether or not they like it or don't like it, etc. But we're talking specifically from a business area here. Sony need to be thinking about these things. Like if you're selling, like doing The Last of Us, you can go, okay, The Last of Us, but how about we do like the original Ellie? You can play as the original Ellie as opposed to this new spangled gun, which is just got blessed and bloodied, etc. Or you can play as the original Joel that looks 20 years younger instead of this. Or you can make him look like this guy. Or you can make him look like one of these other Sony IPs. Just random stuff you can just introduce into the universe because you can do that as a skin. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Magnum Westward says he wants a Jim Ryan faction shirt, a white T-shirt, and all skin.
You can play around with these things, like it's mad. Like even if you have a think about the other random things Xbox have got in their ecosystem that we've all forgot about. But remember the Xbox avatars that used to be big?
I loved them.
I changed clothes on my avatar like last week, bro. I still play with that.
Me too. I got Gears uniform.
You can buy little things for your avatars and stuff, like all this daft stuff. Like why have they just done away with their like dynamic backgrounds and stuff like that and all of that? Why have they done away with that? That's another thing of like this is how the ecosystem can evolve monetarily, is you introduce additional things to the service that people can buy. It's a storefront after all. Like the entire thing is a shop that happens to run games. That is what these systems are. These are shops that happen to run games. So sell. Like they've been really good at selling the game in itself, but you need to be able to sell things about that game outside of its initial purchase. That's what Sony need to do. If they're not going to invest in multiplayer or games as a service, which they're not, then you need to be thinking of other avenues. That is ultimately what's going to help them. If not, then Hog Eats Way is probably the only way.
Yeah.
Everything goes to PC, no matter what. Get it out there.
I mean, it'd make him extra money for sure. Listen, let's bring in Keosante, try and get his hot take on this. before I do that, bro, let me catch up on just. We are up to date with super chats. Okay, so how do they fix this, Kay? Because obviously this can't continue to happen. This is obviously an issue.
Yeah, no, I agree with the points that have all been made. I honestly think that I think they need to take a step back.
Yep.
You know, they are the market leader. We're like the hardcore are going to hate it for a while, but for a while, PlayStation is and will continue to be the name of gaming. It just will be. Yeah. What did you play? Well, I played this, I played that, I played this, I played that. Where'd you play it? On my PlayStation. Even though most of those are third party, right? They need to take a step back, reevaluate the amount of studios they own because they're spread thin. They're allowing projects that then can't be seen to its fullest fruition because there's not enough money. They're allowing cracks in their cyberwall. This is all going to head to very bad places. See, where I'm solely focused is where Hargeet was talking about, which is regulatory bodies will eat you for lunch in this realm.
Listen, speaking of regulatory situations, Sony stepping in it or stepping on it once again. The Verge is reporting, this was posted December 20th, which I believe is today, if I know my dates. Yep. Sony has been fined $14.8 million for shutting out third-party PlayStation 4 controllers in France.
Yeah, I saw that this afternoon.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't allow for third-party controller, a third-party market. The French are suing them. Well, they're basically fining them.
Yeah, almost $15 million.
$15 million, which, hey, it's not much. Yeah, for a big company like that, sure. But that would have saved that amount of money would have saved some jobs for a little while. That could have finished the project, right? I know,
spread too, though, right? Because they're a member of the EU, so
exactly.
It's a problem in France. It could be a problem across the EU.
It could be probably across the EU, and to the point of personal data. It was already said in the synopsis of the leaks that passport data, which is personal passport data, was also leaked, right? So
you mean like government issue passports?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
the whole scam.
Dude. Yeah,
passport data.
Yeah,
right. Someone's passport data was leaked. So this is a bigger issue because look. The reason why they are allowed to be PlayStation and sell to you and all that is that they promise or they levy a certain level of quality for security, for your credit card information and all of this. As people have been talking about, Microsoft does most of their stuff in-house, and as such, they have to be at the tip of this information. If you want, pro tip, if you have a Microsoft account, go to account.microsoft.com. Check your security. You'll see how many times they attempt to breach you. And me, on average, it's about every 15 to 20 minutes from all over the world. But I never hear about
those announcements. Such a jerk. Just try.
Like seriously, yeah. Seriously, if you turn that notification on, it would drive you insane. But I never hear about it. Why? Because if it's not authenticated by me, I'm not getting in. Microsoft works it out that way, right? It seems to me that the Sony we know, in their stubborn way, maybe is not asking for help, and they need to in this realm, right? When Microsoft, because we're gamers here, let's talk in gaming parlance. When Microsoft needed that sad dad simulator #just1, what did they do? They started poaching Sony Santa Monica people. Right? That's what they did. Right? Who like you always hear this battle between Microsoft and Apple and all these other companies about who's the better operating system. Where do banks leave their systems? Linux and Windows operating systems. Trust me, I know, I work on them. Right? So go poach some Microsoft people and fix your damn security. It's just that simple. Indeed. Well, it'll cost you, but it'll cost you more when the EU and all these other regulators start fining you about this stuff. Yeah, that is so critical. Screw the game talk. Screw all the other stuff. If right now You don't hear from any PlayStation executive for 2-3 years. The hardcore would lose their cotton picking minds. But guess what? Gaming would continue because there'd be third parties on there all day. Go in the lab, fix your stuff.
Yeah.
Next time you come back, you speak with better words. You know what I'm saying?
No, I mean, good stuff. Listen, according to Adidas 20, who drops a very generous $5 super chat and says Norton, McAfee, and Windows Defender are on sale, Sony. So spend some money.
Windows Defender is free, technically.
We also have a super chat coming in from Spartan661. He drops an additional $10 super chat and says, Jim is the real DB Cooper. His age checks, his disappearance checks, and the parachute he just got with those shares he sold, I'm pretty sure checks. Is this suspicious? LOL. Just a thought. Oh my goodness, no, not calling him DB.
Well, hold on, Boom. I just had a quick thought.
Yeah.
A quick thought. You know, say what you will, but we heard today of all days, Bobby needs a job. You can say what you will, but he runs a tight ship. I'm just saying.
I've been hearing that.
I'm just saying.
But he's also allowed for a lot of sexual misconduct and stuff that on his last company. So yeah, he's leaving on 29. So, no, it makes sense. It makes sense. Listen, folks, at the end of the day, this was a great show. A lot of powerful opinions. I think that we handled this like paraprofessionals. We had some fun with some points, but for the most, we were on point, and I think that everyone was just phenomenal, and I think that we handled it like again professionals. So I'm going to end the show because it is the 2-hour mark. We're actually a little over. Let's get everyone out of here, and we're going to start first with the Black Viking. Now, folks, if you don't know who he is, you better find out because his podcast, which goes live on Tuesdays, is blowing up. He had a lot of people show up. Really, really good dude. I don't have to sell you, brand, because you're going to sell a Black Viking.
That's right,
Talk
man.
about it, brother.
So
how can people subscribe to your YouTube channel? We want to get you to. Well, are you over 1K yet?
Hell no, man.
I mean, listen, you don't know. These things happen. Yeah, we got to get you to 1K. So drop your channel link in there.
Yeah.
Let's get people subscribed over to your channel. Tell them what you do over there. And more importantly, if people want to hear some truths, but also some slander, where can they follow you on social media?
I got plenty of slander, but I'm going to do something first real quick. Because
Sure.
Boom's not going to beg. I'm going to beg for him.
Oh, no, you don't got to do that.
650 people here. Hit the sub button if you haven't already. Just
appreciate it. We are officially 90 away. 90 subs away. Yeah.
Just hit. I'll wait a couple seconds. Just hit it. Pause.
I like you did that. I appreciate that very much.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you.
As for me, I'm gonna do my own begging as well. I'm a beg more than a pony that wants Xbox games on their PlayStation. I just started the Longhouse podcast with my
great show, man.
co-hosts,
Really
Black
good.
Skeleton and Supernova. We started 2.5 weeks ago, and we have 320 subs so far.
331 right now.
Look at that! Hey, who would have known? We got like 100 yesterday. It was a good ass show yesterday, man. It was so good. But yeah, I'm gonna drop the link here in the chat, man.
I'm dropping it. I dropped it. Or I dropped
did?
it like it was hot. There you go.
There we go. There you go. Little juvenile. Okay.
Yeah,
but yeah, man, we cut up, man. We cut up. We do a little slander. I keep it respectful though, you know. Like I don't call people's names out, you know, but I find it kind of funny. So yeah, man. Y'all can catch me there, and then on Twitter, I'm at the Black Viking 3, and that's where I do most of my slander stuff from. So yep.
Well, we appreciate you not only joining us this evening, but joining us on a regular basis. You know, folks, like I said, he's going to be here twice a month. Every other week, he's going to join us, and we're happy to have him, and we're happy to help him grow his channel. That is, again, the whole point of introducing new voices, new talent to the community is, and one of the things that we pride ourselves in doing is introducing you to new content creators. And I think I really love when other creators do that, because we are brothers and sisters. Like, content creation isn't easy. It's a tough business. YouTube is vast, and it's loaded with incredible talent. and sometimes it's hard to find those talented people. And one of the things that Mrs. Boom and I really kind of built the channel on was community engagement, but also content creator engagement and giving people a platform. Because like I said, I was introduced to this community and was brought out by Mooch. And a lot of people, I understand you don't dig him and you don't get, he's kind of become like a big PlayStation guy. I'm always going to be indebted because I spent 3 years on Crossfire, and it started with me simply asking to, hey, do you invite community members? And I went once, I went twice, and after the third time, I hit it off with the community, and he was like, hey, listen, do you want to join us? And well, that's how I started. So I always promised myself that if I ever was able to garner an audience, I would pay it forward, and that's what we continue to do. So Black Viking brother, it's great to have you here, and of course we're going to help you grow. And speaking of growing, Hargeet, we gotta, you're not on social media, which is good for you. Shout out to you. And same thing for Mrs. Boom. Mrs. Boom does not even have a thumbprint on social media, and she is happy about that. But you also represent an incredible brand, and that, of course, is Game On Daily. And easily we know Gaz, Mr. Sauce Master himself, but there's also the ninja with a very sharp tongue and blade. Pause. Asa. They do a great job over there. A lot of really good interviews. As a matter of fact, I think it was today. I listened to it. Wandering Dutch, you had Gaz and King David on, so definitely go check that out. But Hargeet, sell the brand of Game On Daily.
Yeah. GameOnDaily.com and then YouTube.com/GameOnDaily. I was going to be on this Saturday, but I have to pick somebody up from the airport. So it's just not going to work out timing wise. Okay. So I'll try to come on the next Saturday, which will be the final episode, I guess, of the year. But yeah, so check that out. And then, of course, Primetime Gaming, and we'll get RDX back at some point. I don't know when it'll happen. And I'm HChunny on Discord and HChunny on Xbox. And yeah, welcome Black Viking. I guess we'll have you every other week, I guess, or so on this show. So that's cool.
On this show, and I'm actually going to be on with you on Game On Daily on the 30th. So that's Saturday.
Awesomeness.
Yeah.
And then, Dutch, are you back or are you just visiting?
As and when I can, yeah.
Yeah. He has a key to the front door, so obviously he doesn't even got. He's in the DM, so he just joins when he can. And speaking of which, come on, let's sell your brand, Dutch, because you're coming back in a big way. You've already put it out on the socials that that your channel is going to be putting out more and more content. I want you to sell your brand, brother. Let people know where they can check that out each and every week. And what else you got going on?
Yeah, definitely. So for those who do follow me on Twitter or X or whatever you call it these days, you'll know now I am a Wired creator, so a content creator for Wired Publications, which was, to be fair, funny enough, they sent us 2 emails because I missed the first one. I jumped into my junk. Second email was just a reminder, we've accepted you into the Wired Creator program, so welcome. I was like, oh, sweet, nice. What that allows me to do essentially with the Community Indie Showcase, which we do every year, love doing it, is get more invested into not just Wired Publications, but in the indie community as a whole. Of course, it allows us access to developers firsthand, so we can get interviews with developers much easier than before. Get early access keys to some of these awesome indie games that are coming out to provide you previews and reviews, but also get keys for our community, as well as discounts from some of these awesome Wired publicized games that have come out over recent years. So even things like The Falconeer or Martha is Dead, for instance, or recently released into Game Pass Tin Hearts, that has just come out, which I'll be covering as well. Awesome games like that and more from Wired Publications we'll be covering, including the Bulwark game, which is coming out from Thomas Sala, which is a branch off of The Falconeer. So all of the awesome Wired games that are coming out over the future we'll be covering. But it just allows us to invest more into this community indie showcase as well going forward. So that's awesome. We're doing gameplay streams pretty much every other day that we're not podcasting. So we're doing it Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, covering kind of games that we want to play. So at the minute it's Final Fantasy 16 and Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, and then a community night on the weekend. But then the midweek mix-up, which is usually every Wednesday. You can find us 2 p.m. Eastern for those in the US or 7 p.m. in the UK. And we did our last show today, which you mentioned, Boom, with Gaz and King David of 2023. Summarised the year as a whole, and that's us now until the new year. So, yeah, it's awesome to drop in from time to time when I have the energy to do so. Miss you guys when I don't though, and I do still stop in and listen when I'm lying in bed, and I can't kind of switch off. So, it's I'm still there in spirit, even if I'm not there in the panel. But
yeah, we appreciate it, brother. We definitely appreciate you being a part of this show, and of course, great show today. Phenomenal. King and Gaz were as expected. And putting those two guys in the same panel is always great. So, congratulations on the success. Congratulations. Looking forward to next year's indie showcase. See what you do with that. Last year's was bombastic, and I was happy to be a part of it. And hopefully, Kay Asante and I and a few others will be invited back to be a part of that as well. And speaking of Kay Asante, you did a recorded spoiler cast for Starfield, kind sir. I was a part of that for about an hour and change. Great panel. Looking forward to it. When does that release? And more importantly, where can people reach out to you on social media and sub your YouTube channel?
Well, thank you so much. First and foremost, to all the great chat. Always great conversations in the chat. Always love being here, watching all the back and forth, the takes that are going on, and of course the panel members. Appreciate y'all brothers being here. Black Viking, it's great to have you on board, sir. It's always good to have another great voice on the panel. So this is great. This is awesome. So to as to the where you can catch me, the show, we had a special spoiler cast for Starfield and why it's so awesome. You need to roll credits, ladies and gentlemen. Roll credits. You really need to. That's when the game actually begins. It's so strange. Anyway, you can catch that in the feed. We're going to throw it in there on this Saturday, both on YouTube and on the podcast feeds as well. That we are at the end of our 2023 run for GCP, but we will be back in 2024. In the meantime, though, I would ask that you follow me, myself, TK Asante on Xbox, PlayStation, Twitter, all those places you want to find me, and also Mr. Everborn Saga, as well as the old YouTube channel. Why? Because in 5 days, nothing else will happen but my birthday. In 5 days. And on my birthday, I will be giving away a Series X. I will go into my YouTube channel and see all the wonderful people who have subscribed. I will pick one, and that person must be subscribed to me also on Twitter, and also subscribe to Mr. Everborn Saga, and you will get a shiny Xbox Series X sent to you from us. Nothing else will happen that day because ain't nobody doing anything else that day. This is my birthday. But thank y'all so much.
I love it. That's good stuff.
And we'll see y'all again next time.
Absolutely. Well, listen, folks, thank you so much for hanging out with us for a little over 2 hours. Big shout out to all the super chats, all of the new channel members, and as well as all of the donated channel memberships. I cannot thank you enough. And obviously, we're going to be paying that forward specifically this Friday, where we're giving away $1,500 in 2 hours, folks. 12 prizes. And all you got to do is be there in the chat for your, and hang out. We're going to we're going to have fun. Friday show is going to be, we're going to, of course, open up with some news. I'm working on that right now. And then on the back end, folks, which is something I love doing, is I'm going to try and build a nice sized panel. And we're going to give you our favorite Christmas stories. Like as a kid, like growing up, what was your favorite, Christmas memory? And I think it really does humanize the panel. And, shout out to Silent Cypher. Unfortunately, he's not going to be there. We're going to miss you there, brother, but you get back next year as well. And of course,
so this is the last one before Christmas, right? So Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays.
That's right. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Are we going to have one next week?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
We're going to do an end of year conversation is what we're going to do. Like pick our favorite, top 5 games, not games of the year so much, but we're going to our favorite experiences, and we'll definitely catch up with that. But folks, listen, again, thank you so much for the ridiculous kind support, the kind words. I'll tell you right now, folks, we are officially 88 away.
Oh man, come on, y'all can do it.
88
5
away.
days, we can do it. Come on.
I think we can do it in 5 days. 88
sir.
away, folks. So again, if you enjoyed the conversation and you're new, please consider subscribing. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me, folks. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends.